honor, and respect. Today, this area is home to people of all walks of life, and we acknowledge the shared opportunities and responsibilities to live, work, and survive within this beautiful territory. Chief Which, all my relations. Does anyone have any additions or amendments to the agenda? Seeing none, I will need a motion to adopt the agenda. Lori and Sandra. Thank you. Any disclosure of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof? Seeing none, we'll move on to the public hearing to consider the minor variance application MB.2024/02, and I'll turn
We need to adopt the minutes.
oh, did I miss that? Sorry, I did. Could we have an adoption of the minutes of April 17th?
And there, can I just say that I noticed two mistakes. At the very top, it says minor variance 2024-02. When it says who attended, it should be 01. So that just needs to be fixed. And for the adoption of the minutes, it said 23 and it should be January 27th, 24. So I'll fix those. So it'll be as amended.
I'll make that motion
Thank you.
to adopt them as amended.
Second.
Thanks. Any objections to those or any more additions? Great, thank you. Now we'll go to the public. Do I have to do a vote? Can I have a vote then? All in favor? Carried. And then we'll go over to the public hearing to consider the minor variance application MV.2024/ dash, it should say 02. And I will turn it over to Tracy.
Okay, good morning. I believe the applicant is online. Good morning, Brendan.
Good morning.
How are you this morning?
Good. How are you?
Good. So this meeting of the Committee of Adjustment is to consider one application for minor variance under Section 45 of the Planning Act. The lands are located at 174 Denison Bay Lane and in the geographic township of Dickens. During the period of the application period, it was discovered that the shore road allowance wasn't reflected in the legal description. And with some investigating going on between Brandon and myself, it has since been corrected.
Sorry, just hate to interrupt, but there might be a potential conflict of interest here, so.
Because I've already declared one.
Declared it last
It's
time.
my wrong, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay, so we have to go back, okay?
Yes, Madam Mayor, sorry.
So they just fill that another sheet in there, too, that you can.
Nice, doing two of the same.
Great, thank you, sorry
Thank
for
you,
the
sir.
interruption.
All right. The purpose of the application is to request permission to enlarge an existing legal non-conforming structure. The addition would be approximately 66.4 square meters in ground floor area, together with a 31.5 square meter attached waterfront deck. The subject lands have approximately 45.72 meters of frontage on Haler Lake in an area of approximately 0.81 hectares. And the property is currently occupied by the cottage, 3 bunkies, and a storage shed. And it's believed that these structures were prior to the zoning bylaw being implemented, therefore they're considered a legal non-conforming use. The lands are also serviced with a private well and a private septic system. So if you go to page 9, Brian, on the thing, it shows a map. And the existing cottage is set back from the lake approximately 8.6 meters. And the proposed addition would be located towards the rear of the existing cottage at a distance of approximately 15.5 meters at the closest point. And the deck is proposed to be set back 8.6 meters from the lake. The subject property is zoned as shoreline residential. Therefore, the zone permits the existing cottage that is proposed to be enlarged. However, the existing cottage does not meet the requirement of the 20-meter setback from the lake. And although the existing cottage is considered legal non-conforming use, any changes or alterations or replacements needs the approval of the Committee of Adjustment, given why we're here. Due to Alien Lake being a managed lake trout lake, an environmental impact study was required. And one was completed dated April 15th, prepared by Ravenwood Environmental. And the EIS concluded that the proposed development is not anticipated to negatively impact the adjacent natural heritage features or surrounding land uses, subject to proper implementation of the mitigation measures listed in the report that was circulated. A development agreement was also recommended that will ensure proper implementation of the listed mitigation measures. So with that, we did the requirement under the Planning Act of the 10 days notice. And it was posted on the subject property on April 29th and circulated as well to property owners within 60 meters and any agencies that may have an interest on April 29th as well. No further comments from the planner were received. And I guess I'll turn it to the committee if anybody has any questions or comments on this. Councilor Ford?
I'm assuming that the property owner has already purchased the shoreline allowance, because that cottage would be on the shoreline.
Yeah,
allowance.
that was what was discovered. That was our Brendan and I's initial conversation, was because it showed up that it didn't. So after some investigation, it was discovered there was an error on the legal description end, and that's been now fixed.
Because the only other comment I have is that I was really impressed by the environmental assessment. It was way more thorough than should have been required. It's really extensive. They did a good job on that.
Anybody else have any?
I have a question. You mentioned there's 3 bunkies on this property. Are these short-term rentals or private?
I think there's more than one owner on those properties.
Brendan, maybe you can answer that?
Sure. The bunkies are private. They're just used by family members. There's no short-term accommodations on this property. We have a large family. There's all said, there's about 18 of us extended. So there's no interest in doing any kind of short-term rentals here.
Thank you. I like large families.
I assume those bunkies have no septic or water to them?
No, that's correct. And the existing septic, I guess, in quotation marks, it'd be generous to call it that. It looks like what it is just some kind of, I guess, hit. So that's getting part of the reason for this whole renovation was to upgrade. As my parents age, they're just finding it a little more difficult. And so we're putting a modern bathroom in, and as such, we're going to put a new septic, which we've identified a location which is beyond the 30 meters from the lake. So there'll certainly be an improvement there from an environmental standpoint.
Great, thank you.
Anybody else have anything to add? Brendan, would you like to speak to the application or what we're discussing?
Sure. Yeah. I just, again, my name's Brendan O'Connor. I'm one of the applicants along with my parents and my brother. And as I suggested, this all kind of came about. The cottage is really just a 3-season cottage. And over the last year, my mom had to go through a bit of a major surgery. And we just realized that in the future, in order for them to sort of keep enjoying this site, we needed to make a few upgrades with respect to a bathroom and a kitchen. And so that's sort of how this all came about. And I'd just like to thank Tracy for all her support and help in getting us to this point. And I agree we were super impressed with the environmental reports. It's certainly one that we're going to keep and maybe even frame and leave it on the coffee table. A lot of people certainly enjoyed reading it.
Yeah, it's neat to see everything about the lake, isn't it?
It is, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so there's no other comments. I guess we can go to a decision. So I call upon a motion for the decision of the minor variance for 2024-02. Can I get a mover and a seconder?
I'll move it.
I'll second it. That the Committee of Adjustment approved the recommendations and conditions outlined in the planner's report prepared by Anthony Homick, Senior Planner of GP2G Consultants, and that the minor variance application number 2024-02 be subject to the following conditions. That the owner enter into a development agreement that with the Township of South Algonquin, which shall be registered on title to ensure orderly development of the lands, including the recommendations of the EIS prepared by Ravenwood Environmental dated April 15, 2024, and that payment of all municipal legal and planning fees associated with the processing of the application. Discussion, comments? Any comments on the conditions, Brendan?
No, we're in agreement.
So I'll now call upon a vote. Mayor LaValle? For. Councillor Collins? For. Councillor Florent?
Or,
Councillor Kuyak? For. Councillor Pijot has declared. Councillor Rodnick?
Or
Councillor Sidoc? For. And accepted with conditions. Great. Okay, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brendan.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
thank you.
Seeing that there's no other business, I guess we will meet again when required. So I will ask for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Great,
Second.
thank you.
Okay,
You have to call the vote.
Oh, yes, we'll vote again. Everybody in favor? Wonderful.
perfect.
No,
I know you don't want to, you want
you go.
to keep going? Great, thank you.
It was quite impressive, though, the study that.
It was.
And even how they got time to, as the construction going on, keeping the soil from the erosion of the.
I was impressed with how much birds and wildlife.
I was just looking at that, yeah.
Morning, everybody. I need to call to order a meeting for HR, PR and admin, 15th of May. Let's see, can I have an adoption or if there are any amendments to the agenda? None noted.
Oh, yes, there is, sorry. Under new business, I believe load restriction on McCully Lake Road, if I'm not mistaken, and the waste management committee for the waste task force.
So that is road.
Load restrictions for discussion for McCully Lake Road under new business and waste.
Actually, it's not McCullough Lake Road, it's Major Lake Road.
Oh, I'm sorry, Major Lake Road.
Major Lake Road. Okay, thank you. And the second item,
Is the waste management committee meeting next week with the waste task force?
waste management with the task force. Okay. Okay, can I have someone propose for the adoption of the agenda with the 2 extra items added, please?
I'll make a motion to adopt the agenda as amended.
Thank you.
Second,
Thank you. That's councillor Florence and councillor Keogh. Before we proceed, is there anybody that wishes to disclose a pecuniary interest or nature thereof?
myself, and underneath the short-term rental zone.
Okay,
Myself as well,
that's
short-term rental.
councillor Keogh and councillor Pigeon. I will disclose the pecuniary interest. And moving on to section 5, delegation presentation from Aaron Thompson, McKilligan and Associate presentation of our financial statement. Would you like to come to, you are at the table, thank you. Please go straight ahead.
All right, thank you. Thank you for having me here today, and we'll just go through the statements. If there's any questions, feel free to ask me anything as we're doing it. And otherwise, we'll continue. So, everybody has the package, I believe. Okay. So there's the first page is some of these haven't changed, but the management responsibility. Basically points out that the financial statements are the responsibility of the township's management and have been prepared in accordance with the public sector accounting standards. And then page 1 shows the independent auditor's report. So it shows that the township self-adopted statements have been audited, and in our opinion, the financial statements are fairly presented. The basis of opinion is in accordance with the generally accepted auditing standards, and also that we are independent in accordance with the ethical requirements. Again, we note that the management responsibility for the financial statements is also in there, and then the auditor's responsibility to express an opinion on the consolidated financial statements. And in accordance with the Canadian accepted auditing standards, also states whether the auditor believes that the audit evidence is sufficient and appropriate. And in this case, we believe it is. Oops. So we'll move on to the numbers. We're on the consolidated statement of financial position. It's page 3, at the top. So I'm just going to hit the highlights of the statements, and if there's any questions, like I said, feel free to ask. The cash is down 24,000 from last year, still comparable, but it's down just investment in capital assets of about 348,000, and then there is also a revenue received, grants received that weren't spent, and then a operating deficit also brings it down a little bit. The taxes receivable are up about 50,000 from the prior year. It's a reflection of the economy this year. I think that the taxes are just a little bit later, but there is 72% of them are still like current years. So most of them are current, and there's nothing beyond 2 years. Historically, the township hasn't had any problem with collections of taxes. So the accounts receivable, it's increased by 35,000, mainly due to the HST receivable that is based on timing of the purchases, capital, or any kind of expenses. So that at the end of the year, there was some items purchased, and there's an increase of 35,000 in HST receivable. Investments have decreased by about 50,000 as one of the GICs weren't renewed in September of 2023. So that brings it down. And then your accounts payable, they're increased by 21,000. Some of the payables related to capital projects, as well as some equipment repairs and payroll accrual, and administrative finance payment also, and various other accruals in that payable and accrued liabilities. And one of the biggest changes would be your deferred revenue, the obligatory reserve funds. So that would be made up of some of your grants that were received but not spent this year. They're saved for future projects, so the NORDS grant and the Ontario Community Infrastructure Fund grant. Some of those funds received and saved for a future project that's planned. And the asset retirement obligation, that's a new one this year. As you know, that it's required under the public sector accounting standards. The new standard estimates that the net present value of the asset retirement obligation costs and adds this amount to the asset. The liability is measured at the date the legal obligation was incurred. We've adjusted the opening comparative figures to include the ARO with the opening accumulated surplus also being adjusted. So you'll see the reference there to note 10. So that would be on page 12. The page 12, the note gives you some more details of what's in that. It includes your landfill as well as your aggregate pits. The information that we obtained from the engineers on the costs. Yeah.
On our package, it's page 19.
Oh, that's the accounting policy change. Note 15. Yeah. Yeah, I think so. So there's kind of two notes for the arrow. Is it page 19? Okay. So there's note 10 would be the asset, yeah. So, okay. So the asset retirement obligation. So that, like I said, that gives a little more detail of what's in there. Like I said, it's the landfill and the aggregate pits. And then there's also on note 15 that I just want to bring your attention to at this time. It breaks down the change in policy and the requirement that we had to do to change some of those things. And the latter part of the note shows that on each statement, we've made an adjustment and shown what that adjustment was. So it's the net book value of your ARO, and then any amortization for 2022 also flowing through there. So you'll see on the statements a little note at the top under 2022 that says restated, and note 15. So there's a reference there for anything that changed that based on that asset retirement obligation that we had to do to show those comparative numbers for last year and this year. And then there's the tangible capital assets. Those have decreased by 145,000. Just a difference this year in amortization exceeding the capital asset purchases. And then your inventory supplies, it's increased by 14,000. Now it's mostly made up of culverts, sand and salt, and it just depends on how much it's used during the year and how much it's purchased. Prepaid expenses, they're comparable to the prior year. It includes your license plate renewals and your conferences and registrations for any courses and insurance. And then your equity and tangible capital assets. As noted, it's decreased by 145,000 with amortization exceeding your capital purchases. And then your reserves have decreased from the prior year, the net of 251,000. So that's a net amount of any funds that were transferred for capital, funds that were transferred in, and then also the usage of the reserves for any items during the year. And then your unfunded asset retirement obligation is the liability for the post-closure costs. Is any questions on them? Okay.
A lot of numbers.
There is a lot of numbers. There's a lot of numbers for sure. So I don't know if I have 3 pages, but the next one is the consolidated statement of operations. We also have a statement further back on my package. It's page 19. That shows, it's called the schedule of general operations. I'm going to go through this one as it takes out the library and any post-closure or closure costs, just to give a better idea of how the township's done during the year. So we'll start with the taxes. they're over budget by about 22,000, which mainly relates to tax supplements that aren't budgeted for, as it's unknown at the time of budgeting what that is gonna be. And then your Ontario grants, they're under budget. That's directly related to your Norwich grant and your OSIP grants. So they were still received. It's not spent this year. It's not taken into income. We've deferred it until it's used for those future projects.
Excuse me.
Yeah, of course.
I'm just confused what page, I got two
Okay,
pages,
so-
19 and 26.
You're on 26.
26.
You're 26 year package. yeah.
Sorry.
Okay. No, that's okay. Go on next. I'm on the right page.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Scroll.
yeah. Sorry about that.
It's hard seeing the,
Yes, sorry about that.
no, don't be sorry.
And then your Canada grants, that's basically your gas tax. The only difference there is just, again, some of it was spent this year and then some of it deferred, whatever wasn't used was deferred. And then your other revenue, it's over budget by 150,000. That includes your permits, your waste and fire fees, interest, penalties on taxes, interest on bank balance. One of the biggest components of the increase would be the interest this year as the interest rates went up. And difficult to budget at the beginning of the year. So the interest rates are definitely up and interest was up this year. And building permits were increased too. And then some planning applications as well. So, your general expenses, they're over budget, costs including some salaries and wages, office supplies and some consulting fees, related to the official plan, also in there.
But the government's going to give us back that money.
Yeah.
Just joking.
Yeah, be nice. The protections to persons, and property, that's comparable to the pretty comparable, but it's under budget a little bit, just from various items, including the travel and conferences and radio costs, like they're all down. Transportation services, they're under budget, mainly relating to salaries, as the foreman retired and the public works superintendent was hired partway through the year, so there was some savings in salary costs there. And the environmental services, that includes waste collection and disposals, it's over budget by 14,000, mainly relating to some equipment repairs. Health services, that's comparable to budget. Includes your ambulance costs and costs for local health unit. And social services, that's pretty close to budget. And your recreational and culture services, it's under budget by 22,000. It includes maintenance of recreation buildings as well as equipment and supplies. So the under budget mainly relates to a decrease in recreation wages, salaries, building repairs and some maintenance. Planning costs, they're under budget by the 13,000, includes planning wages and costs. So wages are under budget and consulting was under budget as well. And then at the bottom of that statement, there's some transfers. So there's a transfer to the library board, the net amount of 77,000. And then 141,000 from reserves and transfer from equity to tangible capital assets of 227,000. Don't know if there's anything else. I'm gonna flip back. And then touch quickly, just on the cash flow statement in my package, it's page 6.
I can let you know if they go what page I use. 13 your pages.
Page 6 would be 13.
Yeah.
In council's package.
It's marked both.
Yeah.
Okay. So this just gives you a better idea, a detailed version of what happened with cash during the year. So you can see that there's ins and outs of, receivables and payables. So at the And about the middle of the page, you'll say cash flows from operating activities, 273,000. And then there's the purchase of the capital assets, the 348,000. It's broken down by division there. And then an overall decrease in cash and cash equivalents would be 75,000. Now that 75,000 also includes the decrease from your GICs, your investment, as it's considered a cash equivalent. And then the one other thing I'm gonna touch on as well would be the library. Probably page 25 for you guys, guessing, page 18 for me. Thank you. Yeah, okay. So here's the library. There's an overall shortfall of revenue over expenses of 28,000. Now, most of that would relate to the wages and benefits. There was an increase this year in some hours and some other items that increased the wages this year for the library. So that gets picked up there. And then the tangible capital assets for the library, it basically mainly includes your furniture and fixtures and your shelving and any laptops or anything like that. Yes. I don't know if there was any questions overall. The notes provide some more details as well. I know we went over the ARO note just because it's a new note. So if there's any questions or concerns on any of those items, the notes give some more breakdown of more details if you're looking for more details of anything.
Can you tell us the library deficit again? Is it 77,000, did you say?
28.
28.
28. Yeah. Yeah, mostly now
Thank you.
included in that, there would be there's an operating component as well as a capital component in there. So like I said, a big part of that would be the wages and benefits went up. That would be your biggest change, like from budget for sure.
So I can say I only have one statement. So despite us putting money into the reserve, we're
Yes.
taking it out
Correct.
substantially.
Correct. So part of that would be some capital that would have been taken out, some of it budgeted, some of it by resolution during the year that you would have taken out to pay for various items in there. So yes, it's.
So we depleted, if I can't find the page now, but we depleted the reserves by yes, to something like, yeah.
Yeah, 250,000.
Okay, and that would be some that was sort of earmarked for previous grant funds for roads, et cetera.
Some of it would be that, some of it would be, there was a deficit this year, so some of it would be that also.
What was the deficit for the year? Because we're talking 2023 here, aren't we?
Yep,
So what was the deficit last year?
including the library, 125,000.
Okay, thank you.
That off the top of your head?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Operating,
Operations.
yeah.
Right, thank you. Does anyone else on council have any questions here, Claire?
I think one of the things that we dipped into reserve for was the purchase of that last pickup for the roads department.
Yeah.
It wasn't budgeted for, and then we decided throughout the year that we needed it.
Our strat plan wasn't budgeted for either.
Yeah.
So
But the deficit was Operating, did you say?
operating, yes,
Not capital,
correct.
okay. That worries me.
We had roughly $80,000 in equipment repair last year between transportation and environmental.
Yeah, and that's not capitalized.
Ah, okay, I thought that was capitalised. No, all right, that makes a lot more
Maintenance
sense.
doesn't get capitalized, so it becomes part of our operational requirement.
My ignorance then. So, I was thinking.
I have a question.
Please go ahead, Mayor.
And just in terms of, overall, as a township,
Yep,
in relation to other townships, I don't know whether you know much about the other townships. Or you do say that we are in a fairly good financial situation compared to other townships?
yeah, there's no debt, which is great, like, a lot of townships have quite a bit of debt. And there's still reserves there, so I think fairly healthy, absolutely.
And there is a schedule on page 27 of it's a consolidated schedule of reserves.
Yep.
So it shows you which departments have what amounts set aside within them. Just for your interest.
The last year or two, I think, has been tougher too, as even at the beginning of 2023 to budget for some of those things with the costs that skyrocketed over the last, year or two, since COVID, absolutely costs went up.
Yeah. For everything,
Yeah, everything went up,
yeah.
for sure.
And
We bought a plow truck that we don't even know we paid for yet.
No permission.
We won't know until-
Okay, okay. They can't give you a price, right?
Well, the price, they give us a price which was about $100,000 higher than the price 2 years prior to that, but the delivery date was like 18 months in the future, and they reserved the right to adjust the cost of the truck. So
We won't be there. I'm sure they won't adjust it down.
No.
By the way, I agree.
Okay, does anyone else have any questions about what she's here? Or any clarification, Jen, from you in the cheap seats at the back there?
No. I was gonna say Jen's happy, so we're all happy. That's good.
Yeah, Stephen, you were listening in there.
No real comments, pretty straightforward.
Thank you. Okay, thank you very, very much. Pleasure.
wonderful job.
A pleasure to have it presented in such a way. It makes for easy reading. Thank you.
Yeah,
If any of that is easy.
yeah.
You could maybe go home and not remember numbers from Suffolk Golf one.
No, I tried to remember them.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very
Got a
much.
truck with 125,000.
Yeah.
They should have read it on the way there.
That is on audio.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Have a great day.
Okay, next on our,
When you're finished.
yeah, next on our schedule is, draft short-term rental zoning amendment. I was gonna pass this over to Brian. But he's disappeared. Let's have a couple of minutes break, can we please?
Okay, thank you.
Okay, welcome back, everybody. On to section 6 on our agenda is draft short-term rental zoning amendment bylaw. And please note that councillors Kuyak and Pigeon have left chambers. Over to you, Mr. Martin, please.
Just briefly, Tracy and I believe we understood from council that they wanted to permit short-term rentals within the township. The zoning bylaw and amendment enacts that capacity. Our understanding from conversations with council over the last period of time have been such that we believe that council wanted to enable short-term rentals in all zones. So the bylaw currently, as it stands, enables us to anyone that wishes to have one can have one anywhere in the township. Within this, something we did identify as recently as yesterday that kind of caught my eye as I've been reviewing this and reviewing potentially regulating them at a future date was within this on number 5, item 5 identifies section 419 and table 4.2 parking requirements. One of the things that I brought up with Tracy that kind of we had overlooked potentially is that we are permitting these in all zones, which includes LSR. And LSR in some cases don't have parking because they're water access only. So we're questioning how we enable the parking requirements of the bylaw if they choose to hold them within an LSR zone, because obviously our concern is in one particular place that came up of most interest was Allen Lake. With the number of cottage water only access properties we have there, if I decided to rent my house to 3 different people and they rented 3 different rooms, how do they provide the minimum parking requirements for that? So that was something that came up. And then, you know, we already have a problem with parking on the islands, for the islands. So if they're not providing parking, then we're compounding an already existing problem. So it was just something we thought we should raise today for consideration before we bring it forward as a bylaw to council.
But if they were using the property themselves, as opposed to not renting it, there would be vehicles and parking issues at that point anyway, and it could well be 2 or 3 vehicles. And I know when my own kids come home, you know, we have our vehicles and then they bring a couple of vehicles. So I think additional parking spaces is not the issue. I think generally parking is an issue for anyone that is on a water access only. Where do they need their vehicles? Are they allocated a spot? And if so, is it 1 spot or 2 spots? We have no allocation of parking anyway. So what's the difference between them using their property or it being rented out? I don't see that is a big issue.
I think the issue lies is that right now our bylaw states that it'd be 1 parking space per bedroom rented. And if 5 3-bedroom cottages are renting their cottage, then where are these people going to park when we require that amount of?
So I think we haven't got to regulating them, but I think the simple fact that we're saying that we're allowing them in all zones and that there's a requirement under section 14 table 4.2 to provision parking. So are we going to make some sort of an exception to the LSR zone where they don't have to provide that same parking as, say, somebody living in the village of Whitney or in the village of Madawaska? So are we by allowing short-term rentals in an LSR zone, taking and saying, okay, Bill, you've got 2 spare bedrooms that are always empty. Now Bill's gonna rent those 2 bedrooms every weekend and have 2 additional vehicles. Are we further compounding an existing problem that we're gonna be sorry we did later? So just something we wanted to identify for council to give us some direction on.
Well, not only that, when you start talking about water access cottages, like who's gonna be providing the boat? Maybe the cottage won't provide a boat, they'll be bringing boats and trailers.
Councillor Farrar,
The more I make myself familiar with short-term rentals, the more I'm inclined to not allow them in residential zones as well as lakeside. I think they're in direct competition with commercial establishments that are paying a commercial rate of tax. And I think that these should be paying a commercial rate of tax. So if you don't allow them in residential zone, and you only allow them in commercial, they're gonna have to apply for a commercial, for a change in their zoning. And we would, other than license, because we wouldn't have to license them then, they would be registered as a commercial establishment, and you'd be collecting twice as much tax from them.
It's
It
interesting.
would make mortgage financing difficult.
Yes, it would.
It would make
Commercial
short-term
property.
rentals difficult, and that's my ultimate goal.
Well, if it's a short-term rental at one point, but then you want to change to something else, it's
Well, right now, they're paying,
like,
for assessment, they're paying $1,000 in tax, and their neighbor who's zoned commercial, renting out, doing exactly the same thing, is paying $2,000 in tax. It's not fair.
I think we have an issue, especially with Airbnb. You've got a company sitting quite happily in California, taking all this money off of people for advertising for Airbnb. The people are getting money who are renting the property. California's getting money because they take a percentage, and the township's getting nothing. And I don't see that that's right with the short-term rental and Airbnb for sure. But I know there are other modes of rental.
Yeah.
In the valley, yes.
Well, I mean, members of council know my view on this. I think we're losing out on money to come into this township. And I'm going back to what I feel is, I'm not opposed to the Airbnbs or the short-term rentals. What I want is to be able to put a levy or a tax on these people or on these places so that this township can accumulate some money into the township. How that's done, I'll leave it up to Brian and others. But I think the sooner we can do this, the better off we are as a township in terms of getting some extra tax money into this township. I agree, there's probably going to be a problem at Ann Lake. I think that the parking, we should be able to put into our bylaw that somebody can't rent out 5 bedrooms because the parking isn't possible. I think we can put some language in there that would do that. I don't want to center out Ann Lake because we may have the same problem at one other lake. So I think that this is doable. I think that other townships are doing they are allowing the Airbnbs and the short-term rentals, but they're getting money back into this township, and that's my goal.
Most of the water access only properties are only small cottages, am I right? Maybe 2 bedroom, maybe 3.
now they're all over the map.
There's some big ones.
There's some really big water access only.
On Hill and on
Are you going to short-term and Airbnb that? Because people don't have a boat to get there.
Hey, Lake. Is there a maximum number of people that can rent, like say, that place we just talked about where there's a house or a cottage and then 3 bunkies, like, is there a maximum number of people that can?
That would be in a license.
Okay,
Yeah.
we haven't.
And I think a lot of this will come back to how we choose to regulate. I mean, what we're saying is we're gonna permit them within the township, whether it's within a zone or not within a zone, but we are going to permit them. They're gonna be permitted where councils deem them appropriate. And from that, then it's all about regulating, and the regulating becomes, how much does that licensing fee look like? Does that regulation say, okay, well, your property is assessed at $100,000 and the commercial tax rate on that would be X. The residential is Y and your fee is the difference between the two. There's ways of managing it through the fee structure to ensure that we're not unduly putting our motels at a disservice by, right now we've got a problem. We've got 80 properties that we know of according to the housing needs assessment at DSAB and 105 listings. So some of the listings are multiple, some of them may be a business that's actually registered, that's renting through Airbnb to try and bring their people in, but we have 105 rooms available on 80 properties in the township. We can regulate the number of Airbnb properties we're going to permit within the township. There's lots of things we can do through the regulating side of it. The question is, where are they appropriate? Because I do think that there is a place for them where, we only have so many rooms available in the community to begin with for rent on a short-term or even a long-term basis. But I think that we need to figure out how we're going to regulate that going forward. The question is, what zones does council want them in an LSR? As Councillor Florence spoke, maybe he doesn't want them in a residential area. Where are they appropriate? And then then we can bring that forward. We can get that through the planning approval process, if that's what council desires. And once we've done that, then staff, I'm already looking at how would we regulate, and I'm looking, there's a lot of examples because there's a lot of case law that's happened over the last couple of years. And there's a lot of different municipalities have taken different approaches on how they're going to regulate it. So it's what one would be a best fit for us to chew on as a community. But I'll leave that, like I say, to council, which, if you want to choose to regulate it, this is our opportunity. But where do we want to regulate it? Do we want to permit them? And if so, where?
I just want to say, I think it's a learning curve. I think that, whatever we pass or decide on, then something may come up and say it's not working here. Well, so then we should have the ability to come back and say, look, everything has gone to hell in a handbasket. We can't do this. But I think that we have to put some kind of a framework together, so that we can start moving on this. This has been on their books since last year.
I do believe that we should allow them. But I do believe that we should be permitting them for the safety of the people that are renting it over anything else. They should have smoke alarms on outside every bedroom. There should be carbon monoxide alarms. They should be educated about how the garbage is collected, etc., etc. And I think from the point of view, I think we're being irresponsible to not do this to people coming into our township renting. And I think we need to put a different hat on this. And we are protecting the people coming into our township, renting out these properties by permitting them, charging schedules and fees and that. I'm open to any ideas with regards to how we go about it or what we do, whether or not we have them in water access only. I would have thought if it was a water access only rental, then the owner is going to provide a boat to get you there. Because otherwise we've got people on the lake that don't know where the property is, don't know the water in the lake, and there is additional problems there with regards to garbage and collection, etc. So maybe if we go down the lake access or water access only, then not with your own boat sort of legislation in there.
It's the parking that's a huge issue.
Yeah.
But would we not wait and see if we run into the issue of parking right away? I don't think every cottage is going to start renting 2 or 3 bedrooms out.
No, I don't.
I don't either.
Maybe 2 vehicles.
Yeah.
Councillor Flor.
How are we going to identify these properties?
Well, we can take the listing straight off of Airbnb for one.
Everybody doesn't use Airbnb.
No,
No, like I said, there is a there's a a company that kind of has tracked that. That's where DSAB got their numbers of the 80 and 105. Is that going to be a complete list? Is it going to be a perfect list? Probably not.
Probably.
But certainly it would be a good starting point. And certainly, a lot of the bylaws I found, failure to license is probably a bigger problem than licensing as it relates to cost and set fines that have been established. So, some of these fines I've seen are up to 25,000 in provincial offences court for failing to license. So sometimes by putting a pretty stiff penalty, and in some cases, you're going to rely on neighbors. It's going to be a neighbor complaining because every other weekend they've got fireworks next door, and there's guys out on the boats that maybe aren't even licensed that are creating wakes and all kinds of problems on the lake. We're really going to find that some of it is going to be complaint basis that we'll get the information, Joe. In some cases, there will be some that they may slip under the radar. I don't expect there is a perfect system for collecting it, but certainly I think that list that came out of DSAB would be a really good starting point for advising people, this is what's happening.
and I think educating before we go in as well, saying before a permit will be issued, you would be expected to have all these things in place. And then we do just a drop sample of inspecting. We don't have to inspect them all, but we can just choose at random, or Mike can just choose at random properties and just visit them to make sure. And if they've signed to say that all these bits and pieces are in place, and if Mike goes and does a visit and they're not, then obviously there's a fine there because you signed to say that these were in place before we issued you a permit.
I like that idea.
Yeah.
It's putting a little bit of trust, but it's also taking a weight off of Mike not having to visit 80 properties.
Exactly.
So,
Job creation project.
yes,
If I could just add one other thing, I mean, the whole intent, going back a year, sometimes hard to remember, but go back when we started looking at this, the intent was to try to encourage these people that were doing these Airbnbs and short-term rentals to open up their places for rent for people to be able to come into the township and live. So I'm hoping that this, number one, will get us some more revenue, but also may deter people and then able to open up and let people rent. Because there's really nothing to rent for people that, and we have the businesses telling us, can't get employees because there's no place for them to rent. So I thought that was kind of a two-pronged approach that we were looking at.
The housing for most of the tourist businesses is not, they're not looking at a 12-month rental either, so they're actually looking for not a weekend rental, but some type of a short-term rental.
For sure.
That all you gotta do is do the math, and you rent it out for 10 weekends, you probably make more money than if you rent it out for 12 months.
Exactly.
I know whenever I see, whenever a property goes up for sale, comments I get from the neighbors is, well, I hope it's not short-term rental.
Exactly.
There was a short-term rental place in Madawaska that I see a real estate sign on it now, so maybe the short-term rental wasn't profitable, I don't know, because the owners don't live in the township.
Yeah. Well, that's the other thing. Sometimes these people buy places And you'll never see them in the township.
Exactly.
They don't even, they're not part of the community. So our whole community base is getting less and less.
Well, I think when we actually write down the criteria under which you will get a permit, then there's certain things that we can put in there, like a response within a certain time, or someone caretaking that property on your behalf. So I think those are things that may prevent people and may open it up for long-term rental. If they lived in Toronto, for example, and they didn't want to pay somebody to caretake their property or pay someone a retainer to keep an eye on it, then maybe to put it up for long-term rental is a better option for them.
Well, that was always our intent.
Yes,
That it would encourage
I
that.
think that may help the situation twofold.
Something else we've seen, that they cap how many within so many miles of each other, kilometers, so maybe the LSR needs to have a cap on them, like, they're only gonna allow one every, what was it, 2 kilometers or something? And, it was basically, they've had to turn people away, they said, nope, sorry, there's already one in your area, I can't give you one, but that's another tool that's in our back pocket for the LSR. But that comes with the license.
Yeah, and I know of one other community that I've looked at did allow them on water access properties. But they were also very clear in their regulating bylaw then when they did on the requirements for parking. In some cases, they actually had parking available. But they also wanted the people that were renting these properties to be aware that they may not have emergency services available to them. So if something happens when you're on that property, there's no guarantee ambulance is coming out to get you, right? So I think they were very clear in making sure that that was also in the information that was being provided from the owner to the tenants, that there isn't an expectation when they get there that all of a sudden, the fire truck's pulling up somehow in a rescue boat to put the fire out for them, that, they were going to be a little more on their own should something happen.
And even in the SR zones, if the laneways aren't cleared enough, that the emergency services can't get in, and that's something the owner needs to realize when they do in a short-term rental, if that laneway's not cleared, you're not gonna get emergency services in there.
Yeah.
Could we put a condition on, short-term rentals on water access property that there's only the parking lot, the parking spot available that the owner normally uses?
We can do anything we want.
Certainly.
So that it wouldn't be any additional vehicles, it's just
Yeah.
like, if the owner's not there, he's renting it out and somebody else is there.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, no, certainly, all of that can be encompassed into the regulating bylaw on how we would control and manage and license them and the requirements for that. Right now, I think the question is with respect to zoning. I think I heard previously that council wants to allow them within the township, that they want to allow them within all zones. The only question, if we go ahead with that, is are we going to provide a specific exemption within that bylaw related to parking? Because the way it says is you have to go back to the schedule of the zoning bylaw, and the zoning bylaw says, Brian, you can't issue a license of any sort for them to do that, because it would be in contravention of the zoning bylaw, because they do have to have parking.
Well, that's what I was gonna say, I mean, Joe's idea is pretty good, but then it has an implication of reserved parking.
Yes.
Yeah, and you don't want to open up that door.
No.
You don't have reserved parking?
No, you're not even on it, Bill?
Nope.
Oh,
Well, you pull in there, pull in there on a Friday afternoon of the long weekend and try and find a parking spot.
Yeah.
All over the place.
If you weren't in there early, you may not get one.
But they get one, they park somewhere on whatever.
And just to clarify, that it's all residential zones, so that's your R1, R2, which is lakefront and within the villages, and then SRs would be off into the laneways, and then your rural areas, and LSR is water access properties.
Well, I think as a beginning, sorry.
no, please go ahead.
I think as a beginning, we do them, and if we end up with a host of problems coming in, we'll have to revisit it, right?
Well, we have to have a public meeting.
Yeah.
The requirements of the Cincinnati Act, you have to change the zoning, we have to have a public meeting.
Good, we love public meetings, another one.
So
What, can I ask a question? How, can this be done this year or? was
Yeah,
that
yeah,
all
no,
the
we'll do-
regulations that we have to go through?
as soon as I
Just
get
to
direction,
highlight,
I can
I
send
think
notice.
what the intent would be is we have to give, like most of your planning, like this morning,
Yeah,
we have to give notice
Okay.
that we're having a meeting
okay,
and that it's specific to the rezoning.
okay,
That meeting would then commence, in chambers here on a certain date at a certain time.
okay,
Council would then, hear anybody that may choose to oppose it.
okay,
Council would then, make determination on whether they wish to pass it or not. They could then pass it, at that regular meeting. And, then we've got our 20-day appeal period on the bylaw, and as soon as the 20-day appeal period is up, the bylaw becomes fully in force.
You're looking at about 3 months.
So,
August, September?
and then I'm already working on some potential regulating bylaws, assuming that council is moving forward with this. And certainly I can bring forward, we can already have had all the discussion on the regulating bylaw. Hopefully not, that would allow us to bring it into full force and effect, I would hope. As a new year thing, so that people have got some time this year to figure it out. And that, effective January 1, anybody that has one needs a license, so to speak.
I mean, the first thing that's going to be asked is, how much is it going to cost us? And that's the bottom line, I think, for most people doing this, it will be, well, how much is this permit going to cost? And that's where we've got to make something that is worthwhile doing, but also something that is affordable to do.
Well, one municipality that I sat in on a workshop, provincial workshop on short-term rentals, Tracy sat in with me a couple of weeks ago. And there's one municipality that has said that this is revenue neutral. And their permitting fees are quite exorbitant, you might say. But they've also now, and everything's on cost recovery, so they're issuing fines. They're actually going out looking for places. They're not waiting for complaints. They're going out looking. They're spending time on Verbo. They're spending time on Airbnb and the GG and the other sites that are people are listing these things on. And they're physically chasing people down to register. And yeah,
They're serious, yeah.
they've made a very big
Hiring more staff.
job out of this, much more than any of us would want. But I think that the concept is it should pay for itself, right?
Yes.
At the end of the day, that's the intent is if we've got to enforce it, it should pay for itself. So if Mike's got to go out on Saturday afternoon on overtime to somebody's cottage to deal with somebody, the fine that's being established should be established at a level where it's going to cover our time and be enough of high enough that it deters people from doing it, but at the same time, isn't so exorbitant that people can't ever afford to pay it either.
Well, I think we should come up with some, sample fees that we think would,
Yeah.
be fair. I mean, we don't wanna discourage that they not do this, because then if we do that as a township, then they aren't gonna ever think about renting out for housing. But
No, I think, Brian mentioned it earlier. If we tell them what the fee would be if they were zoned commercial, because this is a business, and what they're paying now, they will see that a permit is by far the better option.
Not to mention the revenue that's being generated off
Yes.
these that they're pocketing.
Yes.
I'm sure license fees would just be one rental for them, really.
And I believe somebody made a comment not long ago that one of these rentals is charging out like $1,000 a night in the summer.
Yes.
yeah.
So, I mean, if you're able to get that kind of money for a rental, I'm sure that, a small fee is not going to be that significant to deter you from continuing your operation.
I
That
mean-
particular unit at that price though was a 5-bedroom and
Yeah.
6-bathroom and a kitchen.
Oh, was it? Well, I think, I mean, I can't confirm it, but I've heard numbers bandied around. I've heard like up to $5,000 a week or $5,000 for up to 10 days. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. That's kind of what
I think that's in the ballpark.
that's in the
Yeah,
ballpark.
2,500, 3,000 is very average.
Yeah, so,
For a 3-bedroom property for sure. So I think we need to make it as fair as possible.
exactly.
So what I'm hearing is that maybe we go with the zoning bylaw and include the LSR in there as well and start the process?
And what I would recommend with the LSR is that if we give them exemption for the purposes of that, under the parking requirements, subject to being regulated in a future regulation. So we'll deal with that as part of our regulating bylaw on how we're gonna manage those. Because if we don't exempt them right away, I can't issue a permit because they don't have 2 parking spots.
Well, they don't have any parking spots per se, do
That's
they?
right. Certainly nothing deeded, right? So that's gonna be the long-term problem. So I do need to create language within the zoning bylaw to exempt them specifically from the parking requirement. But I think we can address that through our regulating bylaw in one way or another.
Bill, do you think that is acceptable?
It'd be nicer if we knew exactly how many water access properties there are now for Airbnbs.
I imagine there's a few, because people want to be underwater, right?
I want to be on water, but I mean,
I'm not
But you
sure.
mean going up by water?
I'm
Yeah.
not sure people from outside would want water access only.
Yeah,
On the water,
Especially
yes,
with
but
kids
not
and that.
water access
Yeah.
only.
especially with children. I don't
Especially if they're told that there's no emergency services coming as well.
Well, and the other question, you know, I mean, it was a good point that Brian raised and that I think you raised is, you know, Galeri's one where people feel if there's somebody in distress in that water, that we as a township should respond, i.e. fire, ambulance, whatever. And I think, you know, as Brian said last year, we don't have the facilities to do that.
No.
But I think we have to do some education with people that we do not, when we do not have to respond. But, I mean, we had people on the area, just as an example, save people's lives, just people in general. So, and then last year we had the problem where there was a major fight that broke out. And then complaints about that, you know, so it's, you know, it's not without its problems. And nobody wants to see anyone drown by all means,
No, but
but, you know, I would
The fire department-
hesitate to have our people go out there when we're not equipped and don't have the equipment to go out.
the fire department does not do water,
No.
rescue, water access or anything, so.
But the impulse is, let's call it township, right? You know, and I as mayor, you know, was like, well, what could we do? You know, what, can we just say, well, we can't do anything? Or do we send somebody out there? That's, you know, kind of the situation that came up.
When we owned All Star Resorts, our insurance company insisted, or didn't insist, they suggested that we had the big life rings at strategic places
Nice.
around the waterfront. And we placed several of those and throwing lines in front of the cottages and in front of the campground
Okay,
on our insurance.
good.
I mean,
We should have that at the beach.
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
so we
are there, we should be.
yeah. Anyway, I guess
So
I'm prepared to
start-
get a resolution.
could you go ahead and prepare that zoning change? And then we will look and go ahead with that, if that's consensus, yes?
Do we need a resolution? or
No, we'll proceed and we'll amend the zoning bylaw to recognize the LSRs minus the parking restriction. And Tracy will prepare our notice and that will come forward for
So I'll have to,
You'll have to look at the calendar.
leave it
Have to
with
look
me.
at, leave it with her. Tracy will put that on our radar and,
Today is May 15th, so
Well, yeah, I have to get notice ready and organize and get this done, so.
Yeah.
so does that take us into the June meeting or after June
It'll
meeting?
be after June.
After
Yeah.
June meeting, okay, so we have to look
I'm
at a
thinking
meeting
like
in
probably
June,
August.
August, before we look at it?
Or if to go to public meeting, you mean?
Yeah.
I'm not here in July unless you can do it.
that's
I'll
fine.
have to
Are you taking a month off?
taking a week off.
No. Yes,
Yeah, like, if- yeah.
we can bring it forward
For July.
regardless. If the notices are done and everything is ready, we'll bring it forward for July.
July, okay,
That's fine.
sounds good to me.
That would be good.
Yeah.
The summer people appreciate it.
Yeah, exactly, and if we have a meeting and the meets are around to come to it, right?
No good in December.
Yeah, almost to that, I wonder if it should be almost a special council meeting because it's going to be. I think a lot of members of the public are going to be here, so it's something that maybe we should look at, maybe having a special council meeting just for this.
We're trying to get out of all these special meetings.
I think,
But we
I
have
think
to,
Tracy is right
We
though.
have to, for sure, but we should
So
schedule.
let's look at our notice provisions, make sure we meet that, and we'll bring it forward. As a special, yeah, we'll propose a special
ASAP,
meeting
yeah.
date to council to address just this issue and we'll see just how many people come out
I think that's why.
to speak to it. The big thing right now is we're simply making an amendment to the zoning bylaw. We're not regulating in any way, shape or form. Right now, every one of these Airbnbs is illegal in the township. Every one of them should be getting a notice to appear in court by our bylaw officer. And we're gonna fix that so we don't have to do that. And then we'll turn around and most people, if they're coming out, are likely gonna have a concern with regulating. And the regulating is something to be announced. It's not gonna be something we discuss concurrently with the delivery of a zoning bylaw amendment. It'll come forward to council at a later date.
We also may want to consider a larger venue for that meeting. If we anticipate 50 people showing up, can't do it in this room.
Yeah, definitely.
Probably, we don't have the capabilities of Zoom other places.
Yeah, take the owl, can't take the owl with you? Well, it's hard to hear, I know, but I think it's doable.
Actually, I might be able to, no, I don't. Yeah, I could relocate that if I could probably set up,
No, I don't know.
I could probably set the owl up and I do have access to Wi-Fi at Madawaska, so. I mean, it doesn't, I certainly could set something up.
I think Madawaska would be the answer because that allows Alien Lake less of a journey.
Yeah.
And also there is AC there if it's hot in the evenings.
So-
In the summer.
That was my pick too.
Yeah, so just so I'm really clear then, we're gonna put out notices, we're gonna amend the zoning bylaw, but we're not going to be doing, the regulations.
No, the regulating bylaw will come behind it.
Okay. So when do these people get notice that they're gonna have to pay to have their Airbnbs and Bs? That's what I want to know.
Should we regulate?
Once we get it once council agrees to set fees.
Bylaws.
And I suspect that that's a 2025 budget consideration item, that we would try and implement them for January of the new year. It also gives everyone this time to talk about what's happened. Right now, we're saying, yes, you can have them. And we'll have we have an appeal period on that bylaw as well, right? So,
Yeah, I think people need to be aware that actually they shouldn't be there anyway. As the
They're all
bylaw
illegal.
stands at the moment, they're illegal.
That's what I tell people.
Right.
when they call.
Yeah. So why are you questioning what we're trying to do when actually we could have you up in front of a full
People-
court at the moment and
Because
fine you
people
for
don't
illegal?
and like I say, I don't think there's very many out there, not that there won't be any, but there won't be very many that will disagree that, you know, they need to be regulated, they need to be permitted. You're more apt to find people that are gonna have a problem with the regulation and how we choose to regulate it. And that, I think, my previous direction from council was that we should consider having a public open house to discuss that once we get to it.
Okay, and if we end up putting all of them to commercial, then we'll have to change the zone accordingly. If they
I want us
for
to follow
enterprise.
procedure, but I would like us to do this as soon as possible.
Step one, and that's why I tried to break it apart, because I think there's been some confusion. I had a couple of calls even last week and again early this week. I had one from Toronto. And, you know, they were more concerned with the draft regulating bylaw we looked at last July. Than they were anything else. And it's, well, we're not there yet. That's why we've separated the issue. There's two separate issues here. One, right now, they're not legal. So we're going to make them legal within the zoning. Then we're going to determine what and how we regulate them beyond that. Right now, we're simply saying, go ahead and keep doing what you are already doing. And we're not going to send the bylaw officer over to charge you for failing to be in compliance with the zoning bylaw.
But people don't understand, I mean, that there's this, that they're illegal, right? I'm sure the majorities don't even know that they're illegal. So I think that's, you know, a major step. Once we get them legal, I think that the concern will be when we try to regulate, or try to charge them some kind of a fee. But I think we could do this before January, but that's just my view.
It would be good to be in place by when people are closing up this year, that they know definitely next year. And that will give them a little bit of time to get the carbon monoxide in, to get the 2 means of egress out of the bedroom, etc., you know,
And incorporate those costs into the rates that they're publishing.
yes.
Just looking at the calendar, I have you all here. Does anybody have any issues with the week of July 8th?
Well, I have a wedding to go to, it's not mine, but,
Like,
I wondered where our invite was.
July 6th, well, they're not gonna.
July 6th is on the Saturday.
That's
It'll be
the
week of
wedding.
July 8th. Should be the week after the July.
Okay, so I can't do July 6th for better.
It's a Saturday.
Yeah.
It would be like the week of the 8th, at least to the 12th.
I'm good, but I need to have it scheduled.
Yeah.
Definitely, so that I'm not on babysitting duty, so.
It's all open for me.
Okay.
But
So-
when's our council meeting?
The third,
Third?
the Wednesday.
Geez, I booked tickets, oh my God.
The third would be council.
Yeah, and then maybe the week after we can have then just a council.
We're
special
trying to
council
hope
meeting
that
just to
we
deal with
kind of have some
that.
time off in the summer.
On the 10th, yeah.
That's the plan. right now.
Well, we could pick any day that, you know, probably either the Wednesday or Thursday.
What about you, Joe? You like Wednesday, I know, but Wednesday.
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I'm okay. I would prefer not on Monday or Friday. I think I'm away on the 8th, but I could possibly come home on the 7th.
Okay, well, let's pencil it in for the 10th right now, and then,
What date is the 10th?
maybe go by
It's a Wednesday.
Actually, it's the next weekend that I'm away. No, that would be, so 10th is good.
I wish we didn't meet always on Wednesday, but however. Previous.
It makes life easy.
Everybody wants to do Wednesday.
And that
Okay.
would be at 9 in Madawaska.
9 AM, what about 10? It's just that you get people out. I'm worried about Joe Public there.
This is 9.
Do you think you get more people at 9
And I
or
hear
10? I don't know what we have to feed them. What's the feeling of
If anyone's gonna come, 9 or 10, it doesn't matter.
9's fine with me?
If they're gonna be there, they're gonna be there.
I feel like morning or like right in the middle of midday is bad because people want to be at the cottage and want to do
Yeah.
things. They don't want to be.
They want to
midday
get
going
it
in.
over with.
Well, that's good. That's a perfect time to schedule.
Okay,
That's-
you can go 10?
10 on the 10.
10 on the 10th.
10 on the 10th, okay. All right.
Madawaska. Better make sure the hall's available.
Yeah, and that's something else I have.
And that'll give me time to hopefully have everything. I'll go down the day before and sort out
The owl.
the owl.
Actually, I think Sharon's calling in for a whole bunch of reservation things.
Oh, yeah,
Recreation.
move everything?
Some with,
just
they're not
clear.
working with the DRC now.
No, yeah, about $2,000.
Yeah,
That's why I move it.
yeah, well,
So this meeting is just an open house to discuss the zoning change.
The official public meeting, right? Because we have, under the act, we have to have
Yeah,
a
yeah.
public meeting
on the zoning change,
on,
not
on the
on,
zoning change.
not
That's right.
on the charges.
No. But in the meantime, I am working on anything related to regulating.
Right,
And once I have something that looks like a reasonable draft, I'll send it out for everyone just to get any individual comments and edifications that you might think you'd like to see in it.
thank you.
And that way I've got something fairly solid after to move forward with quickly.
Yeah,
Would you expect that the regulation part would be ready about a month after this?
I would think that by the time it gets through its appeal period, I would have it done.
Okay, that sounds good.
and that appeal
Yeah.
period is 10.
I'm sure I had something I could have to council for our September meeting,
And the appeal time is 30 days, right?
20 days.
20 days.
Yeah,
Notice is 20 and appeals.
So we're gonna aim for September meetings. Okay,
I can probably have the regulating for the
are you
September.
having any holidays?
Well, only here and there.
Thank you.
I'm planning vacations in warm weather again, so.
Oh, yeah, you like it.
My daughter's gonna be at the house for 3 weeks, so I may not wanna be at home too much.
So I can have Counselor Collins.
I said that about 3 weeks.
Thanks.
You said that out loud.
That's okay.
Thanks. That was a good discussion.
We're moving ahead.
Right on. Okay, the next one, eh?
Grant funding.
Thank you. Councillor Pigeon and Councillor Kuak are joining us back in chambers as we move on to number 7, new business, and this is the grant writing proposals. Who is prepared to speak about this?
Well, I think what we went out, council asked us to advertise to see if there was anyone locally interested in providing grant writing to the township. We received 2 proposals back. One is an existing staff member who said they'd just take on some additional hours and as needed. Oh, pardon me, there's 3, yes. One was a staff member. She said she'd just take on extra staff time and basically it would cost us the same as what she's making an hour for her time. We had a proposal from Wild Company that was quite interesting, where they've offered to provide some training to other members of the community. And as part of that would write a couple of grants on behalf of the township. And then the third proposal that we received was from Olade Consulting out of Toronto. And they provided us a bit of a costing on how they would, their approach to undertaking grants. Council didn't define really what, other than to go out and ask people what they were exactly looking for. So I brought back these 3 proposal opportunities that have been sent to us. And let council have the discussion and debate they may wish. I can say that I do like the concept of having locally capable people being able to undertake the grants for us.
So the company, as I understand it, in Toronto, we would pay them to write a grant, whether or not we receive that grant, whether or not they were successful, there would be a payment incurred to them. Or would we pay them a retainer to
They-
source grants or?
They gave us a couple of different options. One of them was standard, where there'd be an identification of up to 3 relevant grants that they would write, and they've given us a cost associated with that. They've given us a premium one where they'd identify up to 6 grants. And then there's a custom model where basically it would be negotiable based on any scope of work. And they would provide, it'd be there to provide continuous consultancy and strategic advice on grants and opportunities on a fee for service basis. They didn't get into the number for that specific one, simply identified that they would be willing to negotiate that based on the scope of work that was determined.
And the education, would there be a charge to that training? To train people within the township to write the grants? Is there a cost associated with that?
Yes.
Or will that be done free of charge?
So there was only one that offered to do training within the community. That one, there was a fee to provide some grant training to staff, to people in the community. It includes about 5 hours of instruction. And from that, when they were done, there'd be some practice writing some grants where we'd actually get some actual grants that would be written specific to activities within our strategic plan from funding and sources that were available. So yeah, they've identified very clearly and articulated what they could do to try and enhance the skill set within our community.
And the extra hours for the staff member, would they be actively going out looking for the grants that may suit our purpose within the township?
I think from the conversation I had with the staff member, they would take and put in whatever time was necessary. If councils had, some specific ones they wanted them to go look at, they'd go chase after them. For specific projects, they'd look for those types of grants and then write those types of grants based on what they were able to find available.
They wouldn't go looking to see what.
Only if directed. Yeah, it would be matching our strategic plan, with grants that come available. And then if there was any sourcing time for them to go look for that stuff, it would be on an hourly rate while they were taking the time to look for those grants.
Okay.
But they would also be researching, I'm sure. That person would also be researching to see what
Yeah.
might be available.
Yeah.
Sourcing.
Because I think the whole part of this process of us looking for a grant writer was so that the township is not going to be missing out on grants that we don't know about.
That's good.
So that's what this whole process is about.
And then the time obviously involved in writing those grants, because they are very lengthy, most of them.
Yeah.
So then, as council, when the grant writer would present us with the grants that are available, and then us as council, we can say yes, no, so on and so forth, right? Would that be?
Well, I think the idea was more that we've got some strategic plan, we've got some certain items within our strategic plan, whether that's road rehabilitation or otherwise, they would focus on. I think when we start to divest away from our strategic plan, what we are going to run into more than anything is they'd be bringing us grants that we're going to be contributing tax dollars towards that aren't in the strategic vision of the municipality. So unless there's 100% dollars, which is very rare, usually there's a matching dollar or $3 to 1 or something. So unless you're actually going after something we're going to spend money on, we're going to need more tax dollars. So I think that the intent was for them to find grants that were specific, they were within the vision of the strategic plan, and that they would then bring those back and say, Brian, here's a couple of grants I found. Do you want us to go ahead with writing those? I can tell you that there is time involved in writing. So I'll give you an example. I'm just finishing one right now. where it's a two-stage. So I got through the first process. I probably put, not a whole lot, maybe 5 or 6 hours into preparing a preliminary application to the agency. They came back, said, we like what you've sent us. Give us a more detailed proposal for phase 2. So phase 2 includes them wanting me to provide them with a copy of a request for proposals that I'm going to submit out to suppliers specifically for this project, as well as how we're going to, the selection criteria on how I'm going to select who's going to get the RFP. And so I probably have, into this grant, I now probably have closer to 40 hours of my time into trying to get this grant finished. I'm thinking hopefully by the end of the day tomorrow, I'm sending it in, because stage 2, from my understanding, is a first come, first serve. So if they get what they want and they like what they get, you'll get your money. But if you wait 2 months, that money may already be gone.
Is this one particular grant just unusual? Because it's two stage?
They keep changing the rules. This is probably only the second or third one I've written that had multiple stages to them. But in this case, and it's a FedNor one. So if this FedNor one's like that, I'm guessing they've got more that are like this. This may not be uncommon with their agency. But yeah, there's time. So even on a time basis, there's a cost associated, and that's just what I want to clarify. You know, when they do these, some grants you might get away with 10 or 12 hours of work on. Some you might get away with a couple of hours of work. Other grants like this one, you may have to put some effort into. I've written a 20-page request for proposal as part of a grant application.
And the application on top of that.
And the application on top of that, which is about 12 pages. So I really am, I find that this agency specifically is really kind of odd, because why, maybe a condition of the final signing of the money, here's my RFP, but to ask for that up front, that's a lot of extra work to ask somebody to put into a grant application that they may not even get the money. Like, I may send it in, they go, oh yeah, you're not getting it.
It's kind of like doing an estimate on somebody's roof. I get it. So for an inexperienced writer, the chances of having mistakes made are pretty high then.
Yeah, I mean, if
With
somebody,
this particular grant.
yeah, no, I mean, with these grants, there is a lot of work into them, because you need to know what the buzzwords are. Because if you don't know what the buzzwords are and what the priorities of the government and not necessarily just the priorities of the government, but that specific grant, what is their priority? Their priority may be youth, and you're writing a senior grant. So because it falls into the criteria doesn't mean that's their priority. And they're always going to give their money to the top priority. So it is a bit of work, it's a bit of research. And you know, the more experience somebody's got writing these, the more successful they generally can be on them.
Okay, so what is staff's recommendation? May I ask?
I wanted to leave it to councils. Personally, when I've reviewed these, I do personally like the concept of having locally trained people who, when Joan's not available, because this is just something she does on the side, I can go and see Sandra, or I can come and see Sean, and I've got more people than one to reach out to. I mean, I'm always going to be there as a support person. Not one of these grants will ever get written without me looking over it before it goes out the door and me modifying and editing it. But it means I don't have to sit and spend 40 hours doing research like I just did to get a grant out the door for us.
So, sorry. John, please go ahead.
Okay, so if I take what Wild Company is putting out there, they have the grant writing for beginners and then grant writing practice. So there are two different.
Yes, and 2 different fees associated with those.
Right. So and that therefore, at the end of the day, that's for her,
That is strictly, that is
fees.
strictly their fees to
So
train
it's not-
individuals. And at the end of the day, those individuals, any future grants they write would be a fee for service basis, right? I mean, obviously, there's
Which we'd have to figure out.
that's right.
Can I ask from an HR perspective, if the already employed staff member is being given extra hours, that would be at their rate of pay that they're on at the moment? Would that incur OMERS, CPP?
All costs, yes,
All
because
costs
they're
involved.
currently on OMERS,
Okay,
right? So the OMERS plan has changed because years ago it was only full-time staff.
yes,
But now they have what they call NFT, which is non-full-time staff. And all NFT, all, regardless of status within the township, other than our volunteer firefighters, are required to be offered OMERS.
Mhm.
So if we hire somebody to cut the grass for the summer, they have to be offered OMERS. That doesn't mean they have to take it, but they have to be offered it. So yes,
Okay,
the
so-
overhead on that employee is
that's
a
what I'm-
total compensation overhead, which includes OMERS and benefits, yes.
Okay, thank you.
But it's not
Obviously,
overtime,
obviously, then there's.
No, it would not be overtime.
not overtime.
No, just on set hours.
Yeah,
But obviously, there is then no additional costing per grant that they write. It would just be the hours that they are.
that's right. Their time and effort would be paid
Yeah,
out to them,
okay,
yes.
thank you. For clarification. Joe,
I don't think the Olay Consulting Incorporated is a good fit for our community. Their history of grant writing seems to be something quite unrelated to our township and to rural townships, and their experience is all an urban experience. The proposal from Wild Company, I like because of the training factor in it, and there's a definite price, but you still want to have the cost of somebody doing the grant writing after that. And it looks like we already have somebody on staff that has some experience in grant writing and some success, which we would eventually come to that cost from the other one, plus the training cost. And it's a pretty small community, and I don't know how many people out there would be interested in doing that, other than the person we already have on staff. So in that, for those reasons, although I'm a little skeptical about the ability, my vote would be to go for the person that's already on staff.
my thoughts are, if anybody was interested in grant writing, they would have actually applied. Would they get anybody with the Wild Company interested in learning how to write grants?
And-
I think right now you have the new senior, person that was just hired from CRC that would be interested in learning how to put a grant together. It might be a benefit to seniors. Right. And,
Hello?
and obviously the library person already has some knowledge.
The one thing about the library, the staff member that's applied, is that we have a defined cost. And they're already on staff, and it's, in fairness, probably is the most cost-effective way. I don't know whether it'll be the most successful route, but it certainly is the most immediately cost-effective route for the township from a budget perspective.
I personally think I would approve, I would like the education piece for people that are interested, even if our library person would like to have some education, I think it would go far. Having said that, I would go that route.
If success at grant writing is a factor, I've only ever applied for one grant and I got it. So my success rate.
There you go. Mine's zero, because I didn't get it.
You were applying for this.
No, no.
And I really didn't have that much, thankfully Brian did it for me. So.
I like the idea of, the training
Mhm.
for the person, staff member, or anybody else within the community that, would like to do something like this. And coming from this wild company, we do all know, this company has been successful in writing grants, so they know how to do it. To pass on some of that knowledge, I think I think that is what our looking into.
I wonder,
But I think that would be the way route I'd go. But yes, getting back to the staff member that we have on board, I would like to have them trained.
would be nice if she could, the wild company could combine the two courses and streamline it a bit, if that's possible. With a better fee.
Well, I do like the thought of getting people trained too, but, the different costs and putting the writing practice together with the other one is really costly in my mind right now. But I think even by taking the beginner course, I think that's a good starting point. And like the person the staff member could be one of the 8 adults. We can find out if there is enough people to make it worthwhile. Because I think it's up to 8 adults. So whether you get 5 in there or 4 in there.
Or one.
Or 1. If you only got 1, well, then maybe you won't proceed with it. If you can get 3 or 4 people.
It's a cost per head.
There's other organizations, right, that would benefit too
Very
of
thoughts.
that knowledge.
I'm torn too. I like the idea of Wild Company and the training. But yeah, I like the staff member for cost saving too.
And it's all part of the success rate as well too, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like taking your vehicle to a backyard mechanic as opposed to taking it to a licensed mechanic.
Right.
If you sort of get what I'm trying to say, I don't know if that was the right way to do it, but success is all part of it, right?
Absolutely.
Don't lose sight of the fact that after the instruction, you're still gonna have the cost. So that's in addition, that's just, whatever the cost of the training is, that's just in addition to the eventual cost.
Right. You're never getting that back unless,
And it could be a good investment too,
yeah.
And the only side, as Joe's pointed out, the other side of that is once they are trained, we don't know what they're going to want for fees associated with doing it for us.
But if we
So-
have somebody on staff
That's
has
right.
that training,
That's right.
okay.
But she may not feel that she needs additional training from a competitor. Would you take a lesson from a fellow contractor? On how to put shingles on it?
I'm always open.
I'm always up for education. I think it doesn't matter how much you know, except you always come out knowing or learning something, right? Lifelong learner over here. I know. Could learn every day.
Well, I feel the same way.
Because I'm not sure who we are speaking of, on staff, so I don't know if it would be insulting to that person. But.
So do we have a recommendation from committee?
I believe that wild is a little bit expensive.
I can't find the prices in there too. You know, that's-
33, Joe.
33?
Page 33.
I think it was 32.
Oh, yeah.
32 for the grant writing for beginners would be a flat rate for that service. Approximately 5 hours.
No, I don't see the third person. Third applicant, I should say.
Oh, it's right at the end.
And then the practice being 8,800.
There it comes.
And you can see there is money set aside specifically to help subsidize the participants for being available for this as well.
Mhm.
That's included in that cost. So I guess if we assumed that there were gonna be 8 participants and there was an honorarium of X, and there were only 3 participants and the honorariums would be less, therefore the cost would be less.
Minimally. It's allocated at 240 per person, well, that doesn't go anywhere near 8,800, does it?
Yeah, well, that's the amount that the actual set aside just for that, right?
Well, the first one works out to about $500 an hour. We did it first. And
Sorry about that. I had to take that, Sandra. Okay.
We were looking at the 3 options
Okay,
for the grant writing.
okay.
Page 33.
We've come to the consensus that the company of Toronto is more for rural grant writing and less for our needs.
No, I thought that too.
We are now discussing the costing of the Wild Company
Okay,
versus our own in-house,
$6 an hour.
our own in-house person who has done or has some skills in grant
It
writing.
does say that she'll avail right up to 3 grants under supervision, so. Interesting.
My fear is that we won't have anyone interested. My fear is that we won't have anyone interested. In this.
I think that even something that's like, upfront if we could,
Mm,
because, basically 3,200 divided by 8 is $400 a person.
mm.
Maybe the recommendation is to get back to Wild Company and ask. If there's something that she could put together for. Beginners plus then the grant writing practice. At a better rate and be more specific as to. We only have 4 people that would be interested in joining. So that's not a cost to us, though we're not paying the participants, we're just paying her, right?
Should the participants be contributing a little to their education? Should you be paying to go for this education? To allow you to charge the township for writing specific things. Because otherwise people may go along to the here and get all this training on our tax dollars, and then not bother doing any of the grant writing. Oh, that's a nice skill I've got. I'll apply that somewhere else.
Can I ask a question? Are we looking for someone, I mean, I understand this, and this is great, but are we looking for someone to learn how to do the grant writing for us? Or are we looking for somebody that can research the grants for us? Because at this point in time, my view is we have a CEO that can do grant writing. The problem is he doesn't have the time to do it. So that's my question. Maybe somebody can answer that. And that's not taking away from any's application. Is that what we want? Or is it, we want somebody to apply for grants for us?
We do.
Which is what I thought we want.
We do.
We do, we want to know what's available out there.
We want
Yeah.
sourcing.
I understand that.
Sourcing and writing.
Yeah.
My fear is if you give this education for free, i.e. the township tax dollars pay for it, there might be 6 or 7 here. Oh yeah, I've got nothing much to do. I'll go along and learn how to do. Oh no, I don't think I'll bother doing that. That looks like too much hard work. And not bother to do it even though they've got the education. That's my fear.
Well, yeah, they could take the course and maybe make up the cost of paying for it by actually doing some grant writing.
Yes.
Go write for grants for another township.
Yeah, well, it's, so, honestly,
That's my
I think
concern.
right off the bat, either, I just, that's a good point. Why should we pay the entire cost of the course?
Well, Wild Company is offering both options. She's certainly more than willing to consider writing and the grant itself, but she's also saying, you know,
Over and above.
over and above,
Yeah.
then we could do the training and that would give us a better option of other people out there that could do this.
We do not have an hourly project-based fee from Angela herself, as how much she would charge.
We have the rate for the library. She's given us a rate.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Investing back into the community, right, by educating, I guess.
For the community.
Well, yes, the recommendation, I, again, put it back there is maybe we need some more information from Wild Company.
What do we need? What do we need?
Well, we put a proposal out there for people willing to write grants. This proposal from Wild is to train people to write grants.
It's both.
That's not what we asked for.
We do have, from Wild, I would consider writing and consulting. She is prepared to do that as well, so it is both.
But
As
there's
Ms. Jones saying,
no rate.
but there's no rate.
So maybe bring both of those people in would be the way to go.
What interview them?
Well, they never specifically asked about fees, or they didn't give us anything in regards to what they would charge, so.
We did, we got
Like you
the
said,
fee,
2% of.
we got the one rate, Joan. When Charlene, it's you rated.
Yes, it would be her hourly
Her
rate,
hourly rate.
yes, which
Okay,
is an
34.
awful lot less.
Over $600 an hour less.
Yes. What are we directing staff to do here? Meanwhile, grants are appearing and we're not applying for them.
I already give my recommendation that I would be in favor of hiring the person that's already on staff.
Okay, thank you. Laurie, recommendation?
And there's no guarantees, right, that we would get any of these grants.
No.
There's no guarantee any time.
Yeah.
No.
I guess at the moment, I would go with the staff member.
Thank you. Bill?
There again, I'm just having a problem with paying for somebody's education. I
That's
know
how I
it's
feel.
the community, but you know, if you want to better your community too, you can want to get education, because when I worked for the bank, I took all the courses I could, whatever they, you know, they're gonna pay for and do. But I wouldn't be against, you know, discussing further about, her writing grants too, to see if, depends on what her costs and rates are gonna be.
Okay, Sean, thoughts? Recommendations?
I'm going to. I'm a big education person where I think that if you stop learning, there's something wrong. Out of the three applicants, there has been some success with the staff member that we have. I think maybe if she gets, like, she gets into, more writing, when you're in that environment, then you can pretty much educate yourself. I'm kind of thinking, because There's a lot of information out there. I go with our staff member.
Okay, John?
Well, I still feel, yes, the staff member is the cheaper way to go. However, she does put down compensation right there. That's a pretty hefty, per hour. And,
But she's not charging on top of that per graph she writes.
do we know that?
Yes.
Okay. And I do agree with, the beginner's writer education.
Okay, so you're torn between the two here.
Well, I am, yes, because I think she may have experience, but I also know from just what I've done in the past, it's quite lengthy, and you do need to know the buzzwords, et cetera, to get those grants.
Okay,
Yeah, I don't know where, so you, I don't know where Bill or Joan are at. You wanted more information? Sorry, I'm not understanding what
Well,
you're
I like the
suggesting.
proposal of Wild Company, and I think that's where Bill's sort of, now I've lost my page, but I think that's where Bill's headed as well, that the education part that she's proposing, I do like that. How that actually happens is, you know, up for discussion, I think, with that person.
I guess my biggest concern is I just don't wanna pay for somebody's education that we've got no guarantee that we're gonna get anything back out of it.
Well,
Right,
What-
so.
and I get the whole thing about grants, I understand that we're not gonna get every one, but you know, there again, it's spending, you know, basically $3,200 just for taking the introductory course, and somebody who could just.
Right. If she wanted to offer that course and the people go and put the money out for that on their own, then it, you know, that's one thing, but
I got it. I'm sorry, I didn't quite understand where you're at.
I don't know if I was to sit here and say, am I gonna vote? I would have to say I'm not ready to do that today.
Okay.
I just don't think we have a lot of information or enough, but.
thoughts? Yeah,
I'm supporting our own staff. I'm supportive of people that we already have in the house. Nothing against Wild Company. But I also agree with the members of council that have said the other company is urban. And so my vote goes with our staff members.
okay, so 1, 2, 3. I actually believe our staff member, could do the job at a far cheaper rate for us than anybody else. Whether or not she is as successful, we do not know, but no one is 100% successful. And I also agree that you can learn an awful lot. Every grant you write, you learn a little and you learn a little. And I believe Wild Company, that's how they have their knowledge, because they've written several grants and they have gained that knowledge accordingly. The only way that I think Wild could operate, and that could still happen, is if everybody paid to be educated, if they were interested, and pay their own fee to Wild for her to run that course. So at the moment, I think to go with our staff, our pre-existing staff member, would be my recommendation too. So
You need no resolution?
No, I would just take direction that we proceed with the staff member.
I think we should respond to Wild and in some way support that they're offering education, but we believe it should be a fee-paying course, not subsidised 100% by the township. What do people think about that? And while maybe go ahead and do that course, but it is not funded by us.
I agree with that, but it's. The fee structure could change too, if the people getting the training had to actually pay for it, because. If we pay for it, it works out, it's pretty expensive, it's almost $600 a student, something like that.
For 5 hours. Potentially, they could earn a lot of money for it if they were charging the township 5,000-6,000 to write a grant for us. Then we pay for the training and then they're charging us. So we're paying out twice that way round.
I just don't know how many people in the township would be willing to fork out $500 for 5 hours of education.
We'd have to apply for a grant.
Grant from grant. You know, and there probably is a grant out there.
Well,
for
the
that.
grants for education, anything education wise, I don't think there's anything wrong with reaching out and saying that at all. I think that, you know, not opposed to what's being sent in. I'm opposed to the cost, and also my belief that we should look at our own staff in terms of.
I think the end of the day, what we are trying to do here is that we're trying to better our community, our township. So I hope there is no offense to any of the other applicants, but yeah, that's what it's all about, is just trying to make South Algonquin a better place. So, to use township money.
Well, it's 12 grand, isn't it, in the whole?
It is, and it's not like we are downtown Toronto or Ottawa, or we don't have that kind of money. So, because we're trying to find money.
I mean, we're 12 grand in a hole, and then whatever anyone else charges to write those grants, as I see it, and maybe I'm reading it wrong. And the first 3 grants would be written free of charge. Is that what that 8,800 is all about?
That's pretty well my understanding.
You understand it as that? The first 3 grants would be written free of charge.
There's lots of things that we need grants for in order to do, but we especially need it for road work. But we just don't have the money to do it on our own. Without grants, it's not going to get done, and our roads are deteriorating rapidly.
Quickly.
So, are we going to be, everybody has had their say, so recommendation for staff is going to be, what are we doing?
We've done that.
I think the recommendation is to go with our staff member, but also to reach out to Wild and suggest that this training course be offered as a fee-paying course for anyone within the township interested. Maybe could we subsidise it a little from township money? Is that a thought?
If I may.
Yes, please
To
do.
you, Chair.
Please do. I'm floundering here.
I don't think we should get into that type of business, because if we do that through grant writing, then we're gonna have someone come and say, can you do this for me getting education to do Z? So I think it would open up something that we may not want to go down right now. That's just my, you know, my concern actually.
Okay. That's a consensus. Does anyone else have anything else to say about that?
One more,
Please.
just an idea, just a thought. Let's see how the first year goes. Okay, and then possibly what we could do is maybe incorporate this into a budget for next year. Would that be a possibility? There's Is that a good idea?
I think that's an excellent idea.
It can
Let's
certainly be
review.
incorporated for consideration by council as we proceed through in the next year's budgetary requirements.
Yeah, to review in a year, yeah, how this is going. I think that's a perfect solution to, if it isn't working, then we look at another route.
Is everybody in agreement with that?
Thank you. No, I think that's excellent. Okay, so that's grant writing. We've got a couple of additional items here. Major Lake Road, restoration, was put on the agenda as load restriction on there. Stephen, did you want to talk to us about that, please? Thank you.
I was asked just to join the meeting today. I don't know how the topic came up to discussion there, but I just asked to be present for it, so.
I think I asked for that to be on the agenda.
Okay.
The Ministry of Natural or Parks Ontario and the AFA just seem to be unwilling to meet with the work superintendent to discuss financing of that road. There's been a few of them scheduled, there were no shows and cancellations.
What I can do is I'll give you an update from our last meeting, which was about a week and a half ago. So I had met with John Swick from Ontario Parks, the park superintendent, and the new manager for the area for AFA, that's on Major Lake Road. So out of that meeting, there were a couple action items and discussion points that we had. So the road has sections that are deteriorated, they have to be pulverized, repaved. So there's the road portion, then there's the bridge portion. The bridge also has to get fixed up. The bridge is owned by Ontario Parks. So in terms of what come out of the bridge conversation was that Ontario Parks provides funding to AFA every year. And they're going to look in to see if AFA is going to check what they have and if they can allocate some money this year to fix the bridge itself up. So that's between Ontario Parks and AFA right now. They're supposed to, we have an email chain going between myself, AFA and Ontario Parks, and they're going to give us an update on if they can fix the bridge. The other conversation was for the actual road sections itself. So it's a shared roadway. We own parts outside of the Ontario Parks. AFA uses it for the logging operations, and Ontario Parks uses it as an access road into the park. So what I sort of tried to discuss with them is say that it's a shared roadway. Instead of us and their sections inside the park boundary that need to be fixed as well as outside. So we can come in and do the sections outside of the park limit and do it ourselves. But if from a cost point of view, it's more cost efficient if there's a lot of mobilization costs when you do road work. So if we all got on the same page and we come up with a tender, send it out, and a contract stating that we would all chip in to replace certain sections, it's going to be cheaper overall than us going to do a few sections and then in a few years coming in to do their sections. So what I come out of that meeting was I would take quantity takeoffs on the sections of road that figure should get replaced. That'll come up with tonnage of asphalt. And then an approximate dollar value for the road reconstruction project. And then outside of that, they were going to check they told me this year they have no funding that they can put towards it, either party. So this year it's sort of out for doing anything with the road. But they said they can see for next year if they can get any grants to help compensate to put towards the road. That's what sort of come out of that meeting. So they're supposed to let me know, but right now, this year, they have no money to put towards funding.
That road right today is easily the worst road in the township. There's two sections that I would defy anybody to drive more than 30 kilometers an hour on it. It's paved section, both of them are paved. There's one resident at Macaulay Lake said there's more patch than there is pavement. He's absolutely right. The right fix today for this township is to grade that off of there and have two sections of gravel road. The one section is in the park about 1 kilometer long. The other section is at the north end of the pavement, closer to Macaulay. They're deplorable. It's shameful. And the rest of the road is breaking up rapidly. If you stop and look, it's all alligator. It's all from the heavy truck traffic. None of the residents in this township are causing the damage to that road. It's the Algonquin Forest Authority and their overloaded trucks. And it's going to continue. By next year, it's going to be worse. So it'll be 5 kilometers to fix instead of 3. And the year after that, it'll be 8. Like, they've been coming to this table saying next year for the last 5 years or more. They've always been saying, there's no money, maybe next year.
Yeah.
I think the only way to speed that process up is to put half loads on that road and leave them on year round. I think they'll come to the table much quicker with money, whether it's emergency funding or whatever it is. That road is an emergency right now. It is terrible.
I mean, the bend right in front of the community centre there is caused by the heavy braking that they turn, without a shadow of a doubt. I think they're a terrible state. It really doesn't show our township in a very good light when people are coming in for community events and various other events at our beautiful community centre we've got there.
Those two sections that I mentioned, they're so bad that the traffic is going on the other side of the road to avoid the majority of the potholes. So there's gonna be an accident, somebody's gonna get killed.
Just the speed of those trucks coming out of
The section that's in the park is winding corners.
Yeah.
And it's maybe the worst one.
So maybe, to me, it's a good idea to pulverize it as opposed to peel it off, because that sort of, it makes good material for the road base. So if those sections are potential option, you pay per square area for pulverizing. You just bring in a machine and pulverize it, and then we can grade it when we go into Macaulay and at the same time, because we're running the grader in there anyways.
That whole road is coal mix asphalt, 2 inches of coal mix, I think, topped with, one treatment, surface treatment of chip stone. So there's no hard asphalt in there.
Well, I think we met somebody, and I can't remember which township, but they have basically gone back to gravel roads because it's cheaper.
Yeah.
And they can maintain it better. So,
They say the road's been left too long, and it's, like, I've only been here a year, and I come last year and the road was right full of potholes as it was. So planning for that should have started a few years ago, or
Well, we tried
A while
to get
ago.
the ministries to the table, but they just,
as a temporary fix, you could pulverize it and just grade it with the grader. It's an option.
would you remove that then and go down to the gravel? You would just leave it?
You just leave it.
Yeah, they're gonna grind it up and.
You grind it and it goes back in, mixes it in with your already
But
gravel.
it doesn't go back into like a harder surface. You
No.
can always
Well,
grade it.
probably, it's harder than a gravel is, but mixes
So
it in.
now we're gonna get into the issue of we got more road to grade now.
yeah. We lost 8 kilometers a couple of years ago on the Elm Road. Yeah, well, it's unsafe the way it is, I'm telling you. Just go and drive one, let's see.
No, I know a crew, so I was in there last week working at Macaulay and they almost got into a head-on collision with somebody coming around the corner the wrong side.
Mhm.
And it wasn't the crew, it was somebody else driving. And passenger vehicles, so, yeah, it was a highlight of their day, I know that, because I was called about it. So,
I mean, you mentioned half loads on there. They couldn't cope with half loads at this time of the year, could they? They're hauling out full loads.
see, the problem with that is, we're gonna be punishing the loggers, we're not punishing the AFA, are we?
I don't know, I suppose if you pulverize those 2 sections, then it would be the same as any of the rest of the road, like. But the way it is right now, today, it's not safe for full load, and the full loads aren't full loads. Like they're overloaded, every single load.
Well, yes, because you see it. But that's what I'm getting at now, we're gonna have more room to grade. And who's gonna pay for the whole road? That's the other thing.
Yeah,
And Stephen, with
The cost.
with what you got going on and with the time that you're spending on this,
mhm.
part and parcel with the AFA and, with Ontario Parks, right? So now we're paying for your time to do the research for them as well too, so.
It's a shared road, so everybody's taking time out of it to try to figure out ways to move forward sort of thing, but
But I think
It's
it's
one-
one that's spending more time trying to move forward because it's.
We did sign an agreement with Parks last year, so we are finally getting some money towards the costs of trying to maintain that section of road. Whether that's snow removal or pothole patching. Stephen, from an operational perspective, would it be simpler for your staff to fill the potholes or simpler
like
to
Joe
just
said, you could.
pull it
keep-
out?
You could keep a guy there full time all year, just passing. There's not-
So I guess your conversation with the park is, as a safety concern, that you feel it may be necessary to remove those sections.
I think so. I think it would be wise, and you're going in with the grader anyways to hit Macaulay. I can run the numbers on the square area. I don't think it's a huge dollar value to pulverize those sections.
Is there any homes adjacent to those that may be adversely affected by the dust that'll be created by the?
No, everything's.
So you
quite
should, you
soft.
probably shouldn't even need to put dust suppressant then.
So, and now we're gonna get to that as well. too.
There is a house that's in that first section, the driveway's in that first section, but the house is several hundred meters off the road.
Yeah.
And actually, I think I seen a real estate sign there yesterday.
So the sections you're talking about, I know where the bridge is.
Yeah.
So is it after the bridge towards?
One before. So you get to the S corner before you get to the bridge.
Yeah.
It's on there 7, that's the worst spot.
Yeah.
And then the section before, right along Major Lake Creek, before you get to
Macaulay.
Macaulay Creek. That one just before the asphalt ends, there's about a half a kilometer there and a half a kilometer
Mhm.
basically, and both of them are sort of in the park boundary.
So there's gonna be a little bit of, calcium that's gonna be incorporated in that as well too.
It would have to be calcium.
Yeah.
So now we're gonna be grading, we're gonna be calcium.
Two
Calcium, is that a word?
It's not a huge
Yeah.
amount. Mayor Lavelle?
Yeah, I was down that road a couple of times and I agree with everybody's comment. It's very bad. It's very dangerous. And I'm really surprised, well, I guess I'm not, but that Ontario Parks and the AFA can't see how dangerous that is. And I agree that we shouldn't be having to do all of this. But in terms of our own residents and safety, I'm agreeable to what you think needs to be done down there.
I would say the best option is pulverize it and grade it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then that's gonna probably eliminate 90% of your complaints on the road just for those 2 sections. But like I say, we would be doing it for Ontario Parks out of our own. But it is a safety concern
But
too.
once you get beyond that bridge, the road's pretty good.
Except for the last
There's
one.
one
Yeah,
section.
yeah. So why is that? Is that because it's been
I
a
have
lot
no
of
idea, to tell you the truth. I don't
grading
know
done
if
in there, or is the AFA doing that, or is, because the road beyond that is quite good,
Oh, the AFA maintains the road
beyond that.
or Parks Ontario, I'm not sure who pays for it. From the Macaulay Lake Road north.
North,
on the
yeah,
Major Lake Road.
but it's good, Joe.
It is pretty good, yeah.
Yeah.
They put gravel on it 2 years ago, I think.
It's better than some of our township roads.
It is, but they just.
They have gravel to work with.
Yeah.
They spent a lot of money on gravel the last few years.
So are you still recommending the half load?
I'm thinking it's an and or. Like if the 2 sections are pulverized, I don't think there's a need for the half.
It would be nice to have some speed enforcement, I guess.
That's good.
Yeah, there. I mean, basically, I've gone in quite a few times over the last couple of years. It's pretty scary with those log trucks coming.
I wouldn't know.
Yeah, see.
And they don't slow
They
down.
don't slow down.
Well, one of them slowed down a lot yesterday on Bug Lake Road. He won't be home anymore, but
We get so much money a year for grants to put towards roads and that it sort of contributed to other areas this year. So I can run the numbers to pulverize it and then let you guys know, we might just have to relocate where we were putting it and move it somewhere else. But for sure, that's one of the worst spots in the township and there's no road left, coal patch. So it's not feasible to send guys out. The whole road is pretty well gone, so. I would agree it would be a lot safer, pulverized and regrade.
Okay,
So I can run some numbers for a square area and get some numbers for you guys and then fine with that, I can just go ahead and proceed with pulverizing it and we'll grade it there this season.
Are you gonna try to contact several vendors?
For pulverizing? Yeah.
if the message went out to the AFA more than the parks, that if they don't contribute towards the pulverizing, we will have to put half loads on.
Just say that we're considering some.
Yeah,
If you decided to do half loads and you get that work done, I mean. They might straighten out.
I'm just, it won't affect parks because they're not in the logging industry per se, but it would affect the AFA, wouldn't it?
It's a logging company that Sean was
It's the
saying.
loggers, you're
Yeah.
gonna be punishing the loggers themselves, not
True.
trying to pay, they don't care, they're getting their money regardless, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if the logger has to pay 2 more extra trips,
Right,
Okay,
right? It's the logger that's gonna be hurting, not getting a third.
we don't wanna hurt them, like they're
no,
trying to do,
no.
they're trying to do a job.
Yeah. I feel it was gonna cripple them this year anyway, so yeah.
Couple of them 2 or 3 years ago, and the AFA magically found money to compensate them. I think they could magically find money to compensate us as well.
So recommendation is then, A and or, is that what you're saying?
I think we should not threaten it, but I think it should be an either. Yeah, either we get some support for this funding for pulverizing,
Or,
or we're gonna be forced to potentially put on half loads on this road.
Well, I'm saying in a public forum that that road, in my opinion, is unsafe to haul full loads over, right, in the condition that it is right today.
I don't understand roads per se, but if you're telling me that, then I think it's a safety concern that we've got. in front
It's
of
been
us
like
here.
that probably for the last 5 years, I would assume.
But
It is
progressively
getting
worse every year.
Yeah,
So pulverizing was gonna fix this though?
It's a temporary fix.
it'll put it back to gravel, more or less, and then we just grade it with the.
We did that a few years ago on the last section, about 400 meters.
Mhm.
It used to be paved right to the entrance at Macaulay, and it was so bad. And there was no money to fix it, and we did the same thing, we pulverized it and returned it to gravel.
Yeah.
You don't notice it because it's gravel from there on anyway, there's about 400 meters or so.
Mhm.
Can I ask what the safety issues are? Like
Well,
you're saying it's
if-
unsafe.
If there's a pile of potholes on one side of the street, not on the other, the vehicles are naturally gonna go to the other
Right.
side. And if it's on a corner, they're going on the other side of the road on the corner.
We also have a requirement under our minimum maintenance standards, which are provincially regulated, to maintain potholes in a certain period of time and maintaining the road in a certain level. So that standard is the standard that's applied to our maintenance agreement with the park.
Yes, we just.
So we are to meet that minimum maintenance standard within the park, same as we do on all the rest of our roads. And we are given a grant in order to do so. So operationally, that's a staff thing to manage but I think pulverizing may prove to be the cost-effective solution based on your opinions, Susan.
I don't think you could physically count the potholes out there in one day. On 2 kilometers of road.
Yeah, there's no road left.
so is that the direction that we're gonna go, is and or, it's like we're looking for some contributing money here to the pulverizing of it, or we are gonna be putting half loads on?
Your agreement to maintain that road will exempt them from any costs associated with maintenance, only with capital.
But there's 2 sections.
It's
There's one in the park and one out.
Oh, outside of the park is our problem, right?
But
That's
we're
our,
not causing the damage.
within the park is the agreement, is in the agreement, and anything else is still ours under our roads.
It's our roads, but because it's our roads, we can put half loads on there forever.
Yes, you can.
And the damage is not caused by the residents of this town. The damage is caused 100% by the Algonquin Forest Authority. Whether it's a contractor or themselves, they sign the check. They're responsible for the heavy loads. They're responsible for the overloads. They're responsible for the damage to our road.
I would agree, yeah.
But if we can't get them to the table,
They shut down. Or they drive around the other way.
The thing is, though, I think what Brian's saying is that we are responsible to maintain a certain standard of road, no matter who's driving on it. Right?
Yeah, but we can't put out $500,000 and still, as we're spending the $500,000, watch the guy defying us and coming over and causing more damage. Like, it's insane.
I can think of that one stretch of Highway 28 between Madoc and Belleville,
It's not 28.
whatever it is. I knew you'd correct me, but that's okay. So 60, 62. And literally, you can see where the trucks have caused the wells within the road.
Highway 60, you can see that from the chip trucks.
So are we any different from a road perspective? Like a township, not the township, but the province has to fix that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and I would assume that that's our,
So we have sections that we own and then there's sections that Ontario Parks own.
Right.
So our sections you'd have to maintain up to the minimum
Standard.
maintenance standards, what Brian is saying. So if you're not able to patch the potholes, you're not meeting
Right.
standards,
so going down
which
to
saying
pulverizing. and
from a
such.
liability point of view, we would be liable if something were to happen. So the sections that the town owns, you should be probably going in to pulverize, even if it's a shared road, because you're liable from the township point of view.
Well, that wouldn't be any different than a crave, cave,
That's right.
right?
Yeah.
And even those sections, Stephen, that are parks, the agreement states that we will maintain them to the minimum maintenance standard.
With
So
that con-
we have that's right. So we have an obligation to maintain that road to the minimum standard. That doesn't prevent us from putting half loads on it or otherwise, but the maintenance itself is to be maintained at the provincial standard level.
And
Yeah.
we get costings from them.
We get $10,000 a year as of last year, so this is our second year now. That we get $10,000 towards covering the cost of maintenance on those sections of road related to the park.
We should be getting 10 times the 10,000.
Yeah, well, I mean, the replacement, that doesn't include capital. I mean, obviously, they've got some major capital money to spend there between the bridge and those sections of road. But for day-to-day maintenance, and we would hope that when they do spend that capital money, it should reduce our maintenance as well.
So ballpark numbers, if you roughly pay $2 a square foot for pulverizing. So if you have 2 kilometers of road to pulverize in there, you're looking at $26,000.
And that, which is 10, and how much of that would be ours, Stephen?
That would be half of it roughly.
So like 13.
Yeah,
So literally it absorbs every penny that they gave us for maintenance agreement.
yeah.
There's about 12 kilometers of paved road there, and there's about 3 that's within their signs of the Madawaska River Park. But all of that road within them signs is not there.
Well, from a liability point of view and a health, a safety point of view, I think we've got to go ahead. We've now acknowledged that it's very, very bad. We have it on public forum. People have said it is very, very bad and potentially accident causing. And I think we have a liability to go ahead and get that down the ASAP.
I'll get a few quotes in, I'll get working on it. Just
I don't think it would hurt to message that we potentially can put half loads on.
I'll also reach out to Ontario Parks and AFA to see if they can chip in a little bit on the pulverizing part of it.
Yeah.
See if they can put some money towards it this year, because I think our contract agreement with Parks is to maintain this basic maintenance. not for major maintenance on it.
The other thing to consider is that this isn't a fix, this just gets us out of this little bit. A fix would be returning it to hard surface again. Which we obviously don't have the money to do.
Okay, thank you, Stephen.
Yeah, no problem.
Appreciate it. And all that you do, we appreciate all that you've done and do.
Thanks.
Yeah.
What about waste management?
Okay. I think you need to stay for the next one, Steve, maybe. Waste management and task force. Where are we with that? Do we have the task force set up? Have
We
we got
received,
anyone applying?
5 people from the community submitted names of it that had interest in participating in the waste management task force. Council didn't clearly articulate to staff how many people, how many members of council, what the final composition should be, what the responsibilities of that committee would be. Was that to simply look at the commercial? Was that to look at the bigger picture? So we didn't have a clear expectation. But I did receive 5 names from the community who were interested in participating in that process.
Can I ask if they are all business owners
All,
or do we have some just pure residential?
I
input there?
believe 4 out of 5 are business owners. I don't believe one of them is.
Okay.
4 out of 5 is one group, in my opinion.
Okay. So how should we go forward with this task force?
That's why I brought it back. How are we moving forward? Are we creating a committee that's going to include all of council? Well, if we go back to our procedural bylaw is pretty clear that committees are council. So if you create a task force and you put all of council on it, our procedural bylaw does not allow, based on the way it's set up currently, does not have any place in there where it references that residents can sit on that.
Is task force different to committee then?
So is it going to be, if it's not going to be a committee of council, it's going to be a quote task force. Do you want a majority of council sitting there that could make decisions? Or do you want the task force to make recommendations and bring them back to all of council to make decisions? So that's kind of where we're trying to figure out where council wants to go with this. And Bill and I had a bit of a talk. So Bill, you want to elaborate on the conversation a little bit on your concerns?
Well, that's the big thing, like what's our main mandate as far as what we want to do, how we want to set up the size of the committee. And you know, do we want to maybe take actions at that time? Or, I mean, how many people do we want on the committee? I mean, the more we have, more difficult it is to deal with.
Mayor Lavalley, wants to input that?
Well, I talked to Bill briefly this morning. I understand the concerns. I believe my view of the world was that this committee would be a committee of council. Whether you call it task force or not, my suggestion was all council would be involved because we're going to make decisions. I would like to see more community members, more members, because all of the people that are applied are from South Algonquin, is from Whitney. If I'm, maybe one from Madawaska, if I'm correct.
Yeah, there's one that's actually from Madawaska in the group.
So I think that we have to repost this and try to get members of the community or some other business members involved in this. And I know that means maybe deferring, but we may have to do, my suggestion is we defer this, repost it and see what we get. Opening up to the residents of South Algonquin. I don't believe it should be all business people. So that's how my vision of that was. In the meantime, we can look at maybe some other councils that have waste management committees or task force and try to, we know, I think our mandate is to try to come to some agreement with our commercial business owners and or our residents about, do we want to go ahead and charge the businesses to pick up the waste sites or the, whatever you wanna call them, I can't remember.
Or is it a committee that we want to actually possibly explore and keep a long-range plan as far as our total waste management goes? Because I mean, if we're just looking, you can just want to look at one sector, and it's not establishing a long-term plan.
I believe that the other residential people within the township believe that this is just about businesses.
They do.
So they don't even realise that the money has got to come from somewhere, and if it doesn't come from the businesses, then we are potentially thinking about charging per bag like other townships do. I don't believe that they've realised, the rest of the township has realised that they could be losing their garbage pickups. They should be being part of this discussion. I think they believed it was just about businesses.
So from a staff perspective, I think what we need to know is, first off, what is the roles and responsibilities of this committee gonna be? To what extent? Are they only gonna look at that commercial section? Or are they looking at a bigger waste picture? The committee itself, if we go back to section 5.1 of your procedural bylaw, council may from time to time establish by resolution an ad hoc committee to deal with a specific issue within a specified time frame. The resolution shall include the names of the members assigned to the ad hoc committee. An ad hoc committee may make written report to council on their findings. So that's the special committee I would think that fell into. Council may also from time to time establish special committees with membership determined by council at the time of the establishment. So council is going to need to determine who's sitting there whether it's, are we re-advertising to get more people? If we are, what's going to spur those people to want to become part of the committee? Because obviously the ones that had interest have now applied. So how many people are we going to allow on it? What the composition of the public versus council on it? What the mandate is? Is that looking at waste in general? Is that looking at just this one issue, commercial waste? So I think we need some clarity from what council wants from this committee. So that we can ensure that the mandate has been established and they actually go forward and bring back what they want to council.
I think the overarching title of this, or the whole reason for doing this, is our waste is costing too much money. We have got to bring the cost down in some way, shape or form. And how we go about that is why we're putting this task force together.
I think I was probably the one that brought up the recommendation for a task force, and I thank everybody for agreeing with that, because I think this is a hot topic, not only from a commercial end of thing and us wanting to impose a fee on that, but just in general, waste collection as just part of that is such a big, you have, most people will take their own waste to the dump. And then you've got the cards now, there's probably other things that we could do. But then you have the commercial bins, and what has happened in the past, either they're being almost emptied every 2 days during the summer to, once a week then in the winter, which is crazy. And then you have roadside pickup, which also, is a whole other area. If other townships were probably about the only ones that haven't charged per bag, for anybody, whether or not that's residential or commercial, we're not charging for those lovely tags, nor are we using clear bags to monitor what people are actually throwing away. We've been very fortunate, I think, but it's come to a point now where there's multiple problems like listed. So in my mind, the task force should be just those sitting to make recommendations to go to the actual waste management committee or to the council as to how they feel they could improve the whole system on waste collecting.
Even one resident from each ward.
Or, you know, you have to look at the business people are also residents, but, you know, some of them, yes.
Joe, I know you're thinking.
Yeah, council knew the facts. They got the facts presented to them, in the budget and before the budget. And then they opted out of not making a decision. Because of a couple of complaints. I don't think anybody had any problems with the residential waste. People are buying into the recycling and reducing. I think we're making progress on that. Where we're not making progress is the commercial, because there's none, if very little, recycling going on. There's too much stuff being put in the bins. Some of the stuff I suspect, I know for a fact, doesn't originate in our township. So it's not in our certificate of approval to put that in our waste disposal sites. So it was opted to go to a committee. The only problem was with the business part of it. So I don't have a problem with only the business part of it being on the ad hoc committee. It doesn't bother me, and the committee, at the end of the day, is only making recommendations to council to make a decision that we had an opportunity to make 2 weeks ago and we didn't do it. So, to me, it doesn't matter how the ad hoc committee, the makeup of it, doesn't matter. Because there's no decisions going to be made there. It's just going to be recommendations made there.
And if it's just businesses only, they're gonna be looking after themselves and they're not gonna want any costings.
Absolutely.
So-
Nobody's going to volunteer to pay more. I thought there was a waste disposal part in the package.
No.
No? Where did I just read that.
And maybe Tracy can pull up that report I did.
Oh, it's in your report?
Yeah,
Okay,
that was a meeting or two ago, eh?
that's
Yeah.
probably.
We
where-
asked
And
you
it
to
gives-
break down,
It gives a full breakdown of your collection and your disposal costs.
yes,
Yes,
And we sort of determined like there's not a huge amount of savings from your actual annually from the way it's getting operated now. You might be able to become a little bit more efficient on how and where you pick up certain times of year. You might be able to save a bit. We sort of discussed that in the last meeting.
I think as well, somebody brought up the fact that, you know, a large family could have 6 bags sitting on the corner. That's residential.
Mhm.
And then you have a business that has 6 bags. So do you charge that person and they don't have a bin? So, you know, there's a lot of gray areas.
in Lake of Bays Township, which is directly across the park, and all of our commercial are in direct competition with that region for customers. If the commercial residents live on the site, they will pick up their garbage as a residential rate, the same as everybody else to get 2 bags free. Then after that, they pay. But there is a condition that they have to live on the site.
and they're clear bags and they're checked.
I think it's a tag system. I don't think the bags matter. I read it as Sharon was driving, so I'm not really sure.
I personally think, this whole waste management, that in the township, we should have a really good look at it. It is our biggest expense. When you speak with representatives from other townships, and we discuss in discussion of what we are doing, and everybody's eyeballs go this big and they're going, you do what? And we go, yeah, this is what we do. And they were, oh my, well, don't you have the golden package?
Yes.
And I guess we have the golden package. We're very, very fortunate, but it is costing the township a lot of money. I think now that we've opened up this Pandora's box, I think it's the whole, it's not just the businesses, it's waste management as a whole that we really have to revisit. We really, really do.
And I mean, it might be that a suggestion goes out that it's only every other week that the garbage is collected. And if you don't like it sitting there, then take it to the dump yourself.
And this is part of the discussion that we need to have,
Yes,
right?
I mean, enough people,
Especially when you are Sabine Township, which I represent, is very far away from the dump, from
Yes.
either waste disposal, right? And the same
And I
thing
live,
as
yeah.
Galen Lake, right? So that becomes an issue because of the ratepayers at our waterfront that are paying a fairly higher rate than anybody else is in the township. When they get to the bottom line, this is what they expect. They expect the roads to be plowed, they expect the garbage to be picked up, and they expect the road to be graded. That's what they get for their tax dollars. Besides living waterfront, of course, but I can see the argument coming down the pipe, but we have to make sure that everybody's got an opinion, that everybody's got, yes.
I say,
Well, it's just, we have to storm about this. We have to figure out what other people are thinking, right? It's not like we can't do the heavy hammer and just say this is the way it's gonna be, because then it's not going to be good.
okay, so where does that lead us with regards to this task force? We have a task force that doesn't have their contingent of people or the complement of people that we need. Do we have all of council on it? Do we say we'll have 2 business representations and 2 residential representations from whoever applies? After all, as councillors, we're all resident too. So we do wear 2 hats here.
And if we have full council, then it has to be, public, correct?
That's correct.
So then every, meeting would then be on Zoom.
Attended by the clerk and on Zoom, yes.
Yeah. So
that would
we,
happen with an ad hoc committee too.
Not without one.
Not necessarily,
if you didn't have quorum, then you would not have.
that's right. Then you're not making decisions at council, because all of that comes back to the council table for decision.
So that would mean 3,
Three.
councillors?
That are gonna be making a decision on how it's going to.
No, that
No,
would be
recommendations.
Okay.
sitting on the
Yeah.
task force.
So 2 business, 2 residential, 2 councillors, and you being the chair, would that be a better forum for the task force? Stephen, would you weigh in on that too?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, because I think you're the man who has the
I'm
knowledge.
managing the operation, so I
Yes.
should be there, yeah.
Is this a possibility? Is this a possibility? Whatever. Yeah,
In the early days of this township, we had committees like that were made up of just a couple of council members. And we wasted so much time at the actual council meeting then, because you had to rehash every
Everything.
single
Yes,
thing that
I
came up in
remember.
committee in front of the whole council. So you're doing everything twice.
Yeah.
Cause it came to a thing that 2 or 3 council members were making decisions of council and assuming that it was gonna fly. Well, it certainly did not.
That's when we had the 11 o'clock night meetings and 1 o'clock night meetings
Yeah, and twice a month.
twice a month. My personal feeling is I'm hearing that we can't legally, I guess, do more than 3 councillors. I didn't realize that. However, I personally, I'm not in favor of just 2 and 2. Only because I would like to have some representation from outside the Whitney. And right now, we have all of Whitney that's applied with one from Madawaska. I'd like to see it expanded, to maybe free business owners and free, property owners. So that you can have a discussion, about how we want to go and which way we should go. And I do know that some businesses are working out, one business working out the figures as to how much it is for waste management for businesses as opposed to picking up everyone's individual resident waste. And Stephen, you know as well as I do, we're not picking up one bag. We're picking up several bags at some of these places.
And one thing I have the guys doing now, we don't really have a lot of really good historical information on commercial business waste. So like I say, the guys go throughout the year, sometimes they pick the bins up multiple times per week. So I made a chart, started in March, and every time they go to a commercial business, they're getting approximate volume on yardage on what's at each business sort of thing, just to get an idea, because in the winter months, it's gonna be a lot less than the summer months. So this way here, you're trying to figure out a rough volume per year that you're picking up from commercial businesses.
It may turn out that we have to keep track of that for a full year to actually know what we're talking about.
Even to get a good representation on if you were to charge businesses on estimated revenue. Like, we don't really have good historical values, you're just basing it on one bin per week or whatever, right? So.
Please go ahead, Jeff.
Well, I'm just asking, members of council, do you agree that we have to defer the meeting next week until we get better composition on this committee, ad hoc committee? Bill, what's your,
Yeah, I don't think we're ready to get rolling yet.
do you think we should repost, get more people or not?
I don't know if we do, we'll get that many more people, but the only thing I'm thinking of too is when you're saying, like the size of the committee, how do you, well, what's the criteria for choosing something?
Well, yeah, we should have a criteria, and I don't think the criteria should be, 4 people from one household or 5 people from one business, or, I think we have to make it fair and representative. I mean, where I'm going with this is, I don't want it to be just Whitney. I'd like to see someone from Sabine or Ann Lake or Merson, or, to get involved in this, and have a say. Maybe we can't get them, but I think we should try to reach out to get them. And maybe that means, I don't know, we'll put an ad in our paper, local paper, I don't know if we're gonna do that. But maybe that's what it means, maybe just putting it on our website isn't enough, I don't know. We got names pretty quickly, from the webs, putting it on our Facebook, I should say.
Yeah, I was talking to a councillor, and I'm not going to say where they were from, and they said, "You're doing what? A task committee? Why don't you just tell people what they're getting?" And I said, "Well, no, we're trying to include our businesses and include our residents." "Oh, we're not doing that. We don't do that." And I said, "Oh, okay, we are trying. Let me know how that goes," he said.
Yeah.
And
Maybe we're trying to be too nice.
Yeah.
Perhaps.
that was the inference there, but
I don't think people realize the cost involved in waste and how they themselves could play a big part in not only waste reduction, but the lengthening of our landfill site. Nobody has that full picture. And, so yes, we are under the microscope if you go ahead and do any major changes. But even sitting around the table, we all have a different perspective of what needs to be done in regards to where the issues are. So, again, do we need a task force? I don't know. It'd be nice to have other people's perspective because boy, oh boy, when that fee was up there, it didn't take long for a lot of people to start complaining, and you knew where the issues were. And that is, I think, why you want community involved, because they see what others maybe don't. I wouldn't have known that, you know, one business is just doing bags and the others are using bins. I would have assumed all businesses so far, you know, so do you, again, it's like, okay, then you have a resident that's putting out 6 bags versus 1. And then you have others that are taking it to the dump. So there's so many other things out there that I think it's a good thing. But again, we're all sitting here. So if we could openly discuss where the issues are and if there's anything that we can do or not do and make a decision and live with it, then I guess we're good with that. We don't need a task force.
At the end of the line, we have got to reduce the costs.
Absolutely.
That's our main goal. How we go about it is the more difficult. And
we've
if
already
we're offering a gold standard, we can't afford it. That's the nuts and bolts of it, isn't it?
And even just the one community that we all got a chance to know, you know, in Northern Ontario, they have a population of 1,200. They don't do any pickup whatsoever. So, you know, we could just scrap the whole idea and have it open twice a week and see what happens.
But then we get back to the logistics again, Illinois and Kenzie Lake.
Well, if you have a truck, you could charge, you know, $5 a week pickup fee, you know.
And they do have
communities
private,
are doing that,
they
right?
do have other, they have that one that we
Yeah.
were discussing, or we had that discussion with, they had private companies that were picking up garbage, but anyhow.
I don't think we want to go down that road. Myself, personally, I don't.
I don't know what the answer is, but as Councillor Collins was saying, that is, the goal here is to reduce the cost and hopefully to reduce our waste.
And be more efficient.
Efficient, I think it's about being
And
efficient.
let's not forget the landslide is good till 2032, which isn't too far away.
That's an estimate.
Yes, and if you can prolong it, isn't that why we're all sitting here at a waste management committee, right? Is try to prolong the life of your landfill.
You probably won't get another certificate of approval for
No,
another site. I don't know what we're gonna do when these are full.
so I mean, we as council all know this, but nobody else does, right? Like we all know things that happen, but the community at large doesn't know, you know. Does the old couple down the road know that, gee, if they didn't, you know,
They
Throw
don't
off.
care, they don't, I don't think that, it's not that maybe they don't care, but the garbage gets picked up,
Yeah.
the roads get maintained. The feeling is we pay my taxes, that's what I pay my taxes for, roads and waste.
mhm.
Everything else in between, the number one priority in this township is roads and waste.
So people on private roads are paying their taxes for nothing then.
So maybe,
See?
that's really nice of them.
There's Pandora's box again.
Council
know.
Collins, that's very nice. It's helping the majority, right?
Yeah, so I'm thinking as elected officials, that we have to have discussion with the people that elected us to see what their point of view is. So that being said, now that it's summertime, I'm going to be attending several association meetings and speaking with a lot of seasonal people, right? And getting some input.
Well, I would hope that if we're sort of delaying this task force, I would hope that come budget time, that we have a better handle on our needs, whether or not you have to increase because you have waste issues or not. So I would hope that the task force could try to convene early, keep on going and have a deadline so that all those things come back.
Because we are going back to table with our next year's
Yeah.
budget, right?
Fall.
In the fall.
In the fall, so we don't have a lot of time.
No, we
but-
don't.
And then again, I think, you know, you have to be efficient when you come to the table, whether or not it's a counselor or a committee member, community member or business. You want to be able to work together towards the end result. So the end result would.
To Councillor Collins' statement about talking with another councillor, and Councillor Pijot's just finished statement about being elected. When you were elected to represent the people and vote for them at this council table. By forming a task force, you're abdicating that. You're saying, well, I don't want to make a decision.
Yes, I agree with that.
I don't agree with that. Bill,
Oh.
I'm sorry, no.
If, yeah, you can rule by committee, but it's pretty slow and pretty costly and,
Well, we as even at a committee level, have never really openly discussed where the issues are. You know, we haven't mapped it out to say, here's some problems, what can we do? The card was one, but that wasn't the fix-all.
No.
You know, and if you set the goals for your waste management committee to be, you know, reduction in waste, recycling, to increase your landfill site, there's so much more that you could possibly do versus just saying, you know, we have to cut back on or charge more or just put a fee on.
Melabel.
I just wanted to say that, you know, the suggestion of having a task force and the committee at the last meeting is so that we could open up and have people in the community come forward with their concerns and their suggestions and input. I don't for a minute feel I'm advocating my responsibility here. I'm just trying to open it up to our community to say, what do you feel? It may not work, and it may backfire, but at least we tried. At least we went out to our community, our members, and we spoke to them. And they spoke to us, to very many of you very openly on the commercial increase. I had calls about the past more than I had about the cost for the bins. So I guess it depended on the day and who was angry and who wanted to talk to you about what issue. So my view of it is, I think it's important. I think it's good to have this task force and get some input.
Well, let's roll with what we've got then. If we've only got 5, then let's roll with it.
No, we don't need 5 from the same group of people.
see, we're already spinning our wheels.
Yeah,
I think I told you 2 weeks ago, the committee just sits there and spins its wheels.
And that was why I suggested that we have to be ready and willing to map things out methodically and not just sit here and spin wheels. Because if you don't have a plan, there's no sense in moving.
I think you wanna have a good agenda when you go to those meetings and say this is, like, at least for a starting point. Like operations, have discussion with that and have some talking points, or else probably.
You have to break down each level of garbage.
I fear that if we have just 4 people from one family, one organisation, it will just become a very loud shouting match of us against them. And that's the last thing we want.
No, that's absolutely not what we want. We don't want that at all. And we don't want to be spinning our wheels either. We have to make a decision before fall of what we are going to do for next year's budget. And we have to make an informed decision as well too. We just can't fly off the handle and say this is what we're gonna do.
we gotta be really careful too. And now we're already planning a meeting with the public on short-term rentals. And now we're going to plan another meeting on waste management, right? So everybody knows what may come up next month on what we may have to have another public meeting on. So yes, we gotta be careful and strategic. But I think this is my personal view, this is where we should go.
Yeah, I definitely don't want to dictate people what we gotta do. I didn't want to be that guy saying,
You're paid to do that.
You're gonna do it on Tuesday.
That's your job.
Would there be any mileage, and this is only me throwing this out there, that we ask for a brief email on your suggestions on how we can reduce, put this on Facebook or on our website, and have emails come in, a brief summary of how you believe we can manage our waste, rather than a meeting. And then we'll look at all those emails as a whole group and take some of the ideas forward or not.
Like a survey.
Getting back to the seasonal people, the elderly people that are seasonal as well too, that have no idea what we're talking about today.
No, and they don't.
And, or
Just
do
pick
they,
up my garbage.
right, they don't care until it happens.
Mm.
And that's when,
Pick up the garbage.
yeah, this is when an issue.
Which
Just
is
pick up
what
my
we
garbage
said at
and
the
leave me
last
alone.
meeting. Nothing will happen until something is put in place.
Right now, people, in my view, and back to council phone, people are just, leave me alone, pick up my garbage and clear my roads and just leave me alone. We also have to remember, we got a tax increases going out at 5.5%. We're going to expect calls on that, you know what I mean? So there's a small amount of issues that we have to deal with. My feeling is we defer the meeting next week. We go ahead with the task force, and we go back out, we post it, ask for individuals to come forward as well as business people. That's my recommendation.
I think they need to be aware that it can impact them as well, individuals, and it's not just aimed at businesses. And I don't think that message with the application to,
No.
well,
Like a plan.
Can I ask what the structure looks like for staff or for how many counselors? Are we having it as a waste all of council? Are we having 2 residents or 3 residents and 3 commercial?
three and three and three
And that's my
seems a
recommendation.
reasonable. Three residential, we're looking for 3 residents, seasonal or full-time, and 3 from different businesses. Then that would maybe be a little better. 3 from different businesses.
I think we can make that decision when we feel something comes in.
Hmm.
3 businesses, 3 residential, 3 councils.
Or we can do it the whole of council.
If we have a whole council, then
It's a meeting.
we're in a
You
meeting.
know, I mean, we can manage around that because you can create a special ad hoc committee for it and put all of council on it. It's just we have to pass it by resolution to create it.
I think that would prove that we would then be there and be able to make some decisions and not, as Joe quite rightly said, and you yourself, not waste huge amounts of council time and reporting back to everybody else before we can move forward on anything. And obviously, Stephen, we would want you part of that motion as well, so as I said before. Okay, are we happy to go ahead with that then?
Do we need a resolution?
No, we'll have to bring forward a formal resolution because we're gonna have to name names on it. Right now, we're just pick the direction. Tracy's got direction on that, Tracy.
Yeah, we're gonna have it in by the 29th. The submissions, we'll have to get that out.
Okay, I'd like to have a couple of minutes break before we go into closed session, please.
Is everyone comfortable with what we've done?
Well, I'm not, but
No.
I was just sitting here spinning the wheels.
Yeah, I don't mind
We've been
it.
talking for over an hour. We haven't gained
I
anything.
think we need a break. I think we need a break.
And that committee's gonna be exactly the same. We'll sit there for hours and hours and hours and listen to 3 or 4 people bitching about what we're doing. And at the end of the day,